I didn't open it.
Well, hopefully it says you're approved. Hopefully.
Oh, you mean from ASQ?
Yeah. So when you apply, you get the email that she's saying about that yes, we've taken your money, and then you get another one saying congratulations, we've looked at your application and you're approved.
So I didn't have to upload my resume, and I thought
She was just saying that too.
I was like, did I do something wrong? I was gonna send you an email, and then it just slipped my mind.
Did you get the second email though that says congratulations, you're approved?
Yeah.
So then apparently they're now waiving it for certain people.
I didn't have to put in my resume.
Oh, mine said pre-approved.
And then I got the second email too. I got 2 emails.
I got only one.
When did you register?
Just earlier this week, Monday, or maybe last here. This is the day I got an email.
How about you?
April 8th. All I got is a transaction information and my card is charged and this kind of like a.
Yeah, I got 2 emails. Let me see if I can find them.
Yeah, the first one
It says
is
thank you for placing your online order. Below is the copy of your order receipt and will be applicable with all the information for your review. I'm like, that's why I was like, why are they treating it as if I bought a book rather than register for an exam?
But then there's another email that comes out from an actual individual that says we've reviewed your application and here's your.
Did you get that already?
Yeah, I got 2 emails. I'm just trying to see when I applied. I don't remember. Did I do it over the weekend? Friday.
April 8th was, Wednesday was 6th, 7th, 8th. Friday, last Friday, that's when I did it.
I want to say I did it over the weekend. Indeed, Walker, Tracker.
I just. Did you do on the website? Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
Because I asked this last week when the deadline was, right?
Yep, it's the 15th.
Yeah.
So you still have. Yep.
Okay. So April 6th. So on Thursday, I got thank you for placing your online order. And then same Thursday, your application to sit for the Certified Six Sigma Greenblet exam has been reviewed and approved.
Okay, that's
But
that's
in your
the email.
application, what all did you have to do? Did you have to attach your resume or anything? Who's sending? Can you forward me an email? I just want to make sure that.
Please contact. So if you do not receive this
Email, yeah.
so email help@asq.org.
Email help. But is there any name of the person who sent it?
It's a general email.
Help at ASQ. So how about this?
This is the email, right? So it came from cert@asq.org. But it says if you want help, if you have any questions about your certification approval, our customer care staff is available to assist you. Send email to help@asq.org or call this toll-free number.
We're having fun.
41.
We're having no fun.
800.
Okay.
It's a Wednesday. How can you be having fun on a Wednesday?
Yeah, it was.
1-800-248-1946.
Oh, I got a phone number. Okay, good. I got a call. I got a call. Is trying to listen who called.
Yes.
Maybe.
24.
She said she uploaded a resume.
They didn't even ask me to upload my resume.
Apparently,
It is there. You have to have a PDF.
apparently, if you've been an ASQ member for a certain period of time, they waive it.
Yeah, because I've been.
Or potentially it might be because you've
It's
already been
funny,
approved for
somebody
like a
left me a
CQA.
voicemail.
I'm sorry, what did you
Or it might be because you already have a certification with ASQ.
Maybe.
I have
That could
to-
be.
Maybe. But it asks you?
No, that's why. It didn't ask us to upload. I thought I did something wrong.
Okay.
It's apparently asked some of you, but not others. And we're
No,
trying to do
Even when I registered, I registered
It was the
before
first
and it
step,
didn't ask me, but then I didn't take the exam that time.
But it was the same my case. Last fall, I applied for the other test, but there was no,
Security.
yes, but there was no training, so then I withdrew and I yes, I didn't know if I can actually use this.
It's
for the exam.
ASQ help.
I didn't know
number.
then that I'm gonna.
What did
do
they
the
say?
training.
No, there was
So-
something else. Sorry, it looked the same now.
Changed the exam once,
Yeah, for $50.
Yeah, I did.
or withdrew.
I
and then you
actually
get
was
50.
supposed to do mine in December, but because I wasn't right, so
I didn't know it changed. I thought
Yeah,
it
it's
was
50 bucks.
yeah,
wrong.
they charged me.
So, and they charged me $50. This is like a process of, so they give me back,
Everything but the 50?
whatever.
Oh,
Yes.
they gave me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just the scale. So.
But then,
Oh, you have to pass the test. You have to read the book, and you can do it on your own. Particularly for the CQA. The CQA is not as intense as this. I don't think it's as intense as this. But that's.
But I remember you said that the same material.
Oh, yeah.
Is for the black belt.
Absolutely.
That's what you got my attention.
Yeah.
Wow, maybe I could do it.
Well, and that's what makes kind of teaching this sort of hard, because it's the same exact material, but the difference in the black belt to the green belt is the depth of understanding.
So, can you like also let us know? I don't want to get 2 for 1, but
You come pretty close to getting 2 for 1. So the
Yes.
truth of the matter
So
is that the
how to
16% that are the hardest questions on the green belt exam are the 16% of questions that are the easiest in the black belt exam.
again,
Okay, so if you think about the difficulty of questions, and you have really easy questions on one side, really hard questions on the other. So if you take the top 16% of hard questions from the green belt, those become the 16% easiest on the black belt.
so black belt more difficult.
No, absolutely. But if you were to draw it out, you have a distribution of like green belt and black belt.
Okay, so how
In there would be exactly the same.
how to prepare yourself?
How to prepare yourself?
Black
You can.
belt.
I actually teach a course in it. You can come listen to me again.
So, but are you gonna check
Mhm.
exactly the same?
No,
from
it's a different book.
Uh-huh.
It's a different book. The slides are different because we're going deeper into it.
Because
So-
I was thinking, well, just continue in December.
Oh, absolutely. I've had many students that have done that, that have listened to me babble for too many weeks in a row.
Because when I told someone I'm doing this, and then just why you not doing black belt? I said, okay.
Yeah.
But you have to have some.
You actually don't have to have your green belt to go.
No,
to
she
the
just
black
told
belt.
me this is just to like.
It's a start. It's a start on the
Yeah,
journey.
that's-
It's the
for
beginning.
me,
It's the
it's
beginning of the
start.
journey. And it's not a particularly easy journey, but you can jump right into the black belt. But so, anyone do anything fun or interesting in the last week? Fun, interesting. Anyone go to did you go back to Texas?
Yeah.
She's in Puerto Rico, so she's there for family issues. So she actually was on short notice, so it's probably. So no, anyone do anything fun, interesting? No, nothing fun?
My universal and
And interesting to you.
I'm back to the
Well, as we talked about last time, it's fun and interesting as defined by your customer, and well, your customer of you.
You know what interesting happened? I will tell you what was happened. On Monday or Tuesday, we have a presentation by our GT, global officer, scientific officer.
Okay.
Someone very big. And it was, no, money was. And then I'm listening what he's talking about, and I'm seeing this charts. The first one, what we were doing,
The sci-fi diagram? Well,
the
no,
Gantt chart.
the
The Gantt chart.
chart. Like I remember when I asked you about which one you would prefer.
Mhm.
What he did during this presentation, which one was it? Force field analysis.
oh, force field analysis. That's the one with the T.
Beginning, like
Yeah.
you said it.
Yeah.
If you don't know something, then they're gonna explain it to you, and it's gonna be common sense. And it was common sense. And then affinity diagram, it was there, and I saw it.
You mean I'm not standing up here and just singing and dancing for fun? That
But
like other
then
people
I
do this too?
realized, Johnson & Johnson is just black belt, green belt, everything is about it.
Yes.
They speaking the same language.
Yes,
they
and
talking
that-
about the same things, and everybody was like, "Wow, so easy!" And I was like, "Oh, I know it."
And that's the whole, but that's what sort of what the beauty of this is, and we talked about that during the introduction, is that it is about that common language. So you can have everything from your frontline operators to your CEO and your scientific officers speaking the same language. So when someone says a force field analysis, everyone knows what's going on.
Yes.
And you're all using this scientific approach to solving problems.
And then makes sense. So this kind of melts the resistance. Because if I understand what he's talking about, then I kind of apply my knowledge, and then I don't have an issue with those smart spending, even though it is hard to swallow. But then,
Exactly.
so and the same, my boss is about this junk chart. I saw like a couple of days ago, like, where is this junk chart?
Yes. So this is just proof that what we're going over in this class, even though we're doing it in sort of contrived contexts, are actually pretty useful tools. And you can use those tools for complicated projects or as simple as what's going on.
And it was difficult one, but he presented very easy and a lot of people understood. It's just interesting that noticing that.
Cool. Yeah, the whole point is not for us to be doing this in the classroom. The whole point is not for you to pass the exam, but that's important, right? So the point of what's going on in this classroom is, or this office, conference, and whatever you want to call it, is to get you to pass the exam. But at the end of the day, you having a little certificate hanging on your wall isn't going to add value to your enterprise, to your company. They're not going to pay you more because you have a little piece of paper on the wall. They're going to pay you more because what you can do based upon applying that knowledge. So that's why we do the hokey activities, is to give you an opportunity to actually apply the knowledge of what we're talking about. Because I can just sing up here and sing and dance, and you wouldn't have formed that connection with the material as you would when you're doing the hokey activities.
No, but there was this good example about this value added. Like, I didn't look at this way when there was this 68 days and 15 minutes, and then I realized what he's talking about, and there was like value added. Like, what is this value? Who's going to add this value? Like, when?
Exactly. And that's quite common. Probably when he was presenting, your value added time was probably about an hour, and your total lead time was several days.
But then when you were explaining it to us, I was like, wow. I was like, so smart.
Well, again, it's all reinforcing it. So that's sort of important for you, is to have that reinforcement, to actually see it and apply it. So we're hopefully moving in that direction. Now for the coming attractions of the scary bits. Next week is your midterm. The midterm is another 50 question. 50 question multiple choice.
And how well we will do?
You'll fail.
When?
Next week.
Do you have an extra 5? I have
only 3 for it.
Oh, did I not print that enough?
Did you print? There was 4 and 5 for today,
I
right?
mean, printed out 3 copies. I can print out
There was
4.
4 and
I
5?
just,
Yeah, I printed out 4 and 5.
This time
There
I
was-
got my copy.
I got
oh, you
5.
had your copies, so can we use?
No, she's saying
She has her
five.
copies.
Last time I
There-
gave him
Oh,
There were 3
I
copies.
just need 1 5. I have
And I
4.
think he needs
Needs
a 4.
I needed 4.
Okay.
So
I never print the right amount.
I
Okay.
picked all the
How
copies.
many green belts this was
Yeah,
take?
wait.
Yeah, I will print them out at the break.
Okay.
I'll do it right now. Hang on.
Okay.
You can
Listen.
print up each, so he's printing now.
Please stand by while I
Thank you.
print these
No
out.
problem.
Unfortunately, I actually have to go into 2 different computers to be able to
I
print
have
it.
a tool.
Bind these all now.
No.
I have to get them ready for my test.
So
But I was thinking about it.
while we're waiting for me to print these out, what did we go over last class? What did we do?
We did a lot of it last class.
Yeah, what did we do last class?
Process maps, value
So
stream,
if I will fail,
side
then I
box,
remember how I
theory of
was
constraints, spaghetti diagrams, CPM, Gantt charts.
Yeah, you can just go read down the list.
Word,
Okay, let's break it. Let's break it. Going down way too long of a list. Okay, so when we're talking about what we did last class, like what was the key thing what was the first
process
thing that?
mapping and
Okay, so-
project scheduling.
Okay, so we first talked about process mapping. What is process mapping? What do you use it? Why does it matter?
To just say like a visual.
Okay, it's a visual representation of your process.
Where the input becomes the output.
Okay, well that's in the SciPoc diagram, right? So the first tool there is our SciPoc diagram, which is that high level picture of what's going on, really at a 30,000 foot level, just looking down on it saying, okay, what is it exactly that we do? So that was the SciPoc diagram. Then what else did we talk about?
Theory of constraints and spaghetti diagram.
Value creation.
The spaghetti diagram, right? If we remember, the spaghetti diagram is named the spaghetti diagram because, well, it looks like spaghetti. We talked about the process mapping from the Six Sigma toolkit, where that's just using the flowcharting tools to draw out a picture of your process. And we talked about the lean equivalent, which is the value stream map. where it looks at this idea of your process as being like a river and looks at how material and information flows through your process. And in our discussion of value stream mapping, we talked about value added and non-value added, where value added is anything that changes the fit, the form, or the function of a good or a service that your customer is willing to pay for. So if your customer is not willing to pay for it, it's not value added. If you add a feature because you think it's cool or it's got a technology you want to play with, you're an engineer and it's non-value added. Everyone that's ever worked in R&D has at one point or another tried to seek in a feature because it had a technology that you wanted to play with, or it involved a cool gizmo that you wanted to play with. I'm guilty of that. I'm very guilty of that. It came back to bite me in the butt a couple times. But yes, we are all guilty of that, of adding those features that are not important to our customer, that are non-value added. And if you stop and think about your daily lives, about what you do on a daily basis, you're doing really, really, really well for yourself. If 30% of your day, 30% of the things you do in a day, you consider to be value added, you're doing really well if you get there.
But I know, but how are I supposed to like?
Evaluate if it's value added. If you would pay yourself to do it.
Oh.
So like commuting to work, completely non-value added. Like what you're doing at work, probably not value added. You're paying yourself to do it, but the actual activities you're doing, like, yeah, I could do without them. They can mail me the check at the end, but like the actual activities, not so much. Maybe if you go home and like cook dinner, if you're one of those people that really loves to cook, maybe or you go home and play with your kids if you have kids, maybe that's value added if you like your kids. If you don't have kids, well, maybe you play with your significant other, if you like your significant other, go to the bar, go to the gym. Maybe those are things that are value added. But you're doing really well for yourself if 30% of your day is spent in a manner that you would be willing to pay yourself for.
To do with me?
By yourself, yeah. That the way you spend your time. So you're up for about 18 hours or so a day. Of those 18 hours a day, you have to play with. What are you doing activities that you would pay yourself to do? Yeah, a lot of them aren't really value added. It's kind of like they're enabling processes. They're processes that enable you to do other stuff, like going to work enables you to get a paycheck. You like the paycheck, but the actual activities you're doing at work, yeah, you probably could do without them. Or you think about the enabling processes that get you to work, driving, commuting, not so much. Even though one person, I've done an activity where I had my students lay out their daily, their getting to work process, and one guy argued very vehemently that his commute to work was extremely value added. It was his personal time. He put on the radio station he wanted to. It allowed him to go into like some sort of Zen state and get ready for his day.
This is the same for me.
That's fine.
I'm listening to CDs, some good stuff, and sometimes I don't want to go to work because I want to listen.
Well,
it's just like, come on.
And that's why it's so important in your value-added analysis to identify who your customers are, because what's value-added to you isn't going to be value-added to him. It's not going to be value-added to me. And that's true of whatever processes you have here. If you're manufacturing a product, there's some features that some of your customers care about, and there's other features that you don't.
Yeah, I have a guy at work. He doesn't have an iPhone, and he doesn't want to have an iPhone.
Yeah, I know somebody like that.
And he has this flip thingy, and he said, "Why am I supposed to make pictures? I don't care about picture of my food because he needs it."
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then you can think about the other customers for things like an iPhone, like the FCC, where the Federal Communications Commission sets standards on how that iPhone is going to work. And then there's the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office that also has some interesting implications on the patents on Apple. Okay, so what else did we talk about? So we talked about the process mapping stuff. Then what else did we talk about? We talked about the project scheduling stuff. So we talked about the PERT chart, right? And then we also talked about, what else did we talk about? Anything else? We talked about the critical path method, right? Mm-hmm. And we defined what the critical path was. So what's the critical path?
The longest taken to finish an activity.
Yeah, it's the longest duration that's needed to complete an overall project.
But the longest is not the more important component.
No.
Reaching this point.
Well, you want to go from A to B. So if going from start to end, you have to complete a lot of smaller subtasks. Mm-hmm. So the critical path represents the shortest overall duration that all those subclasses can be completed. Okay, what else did we talk about? What else did we talk about? We talked a little bit about the, what else? Work breakdown structure, did we get to that? No, PDCPC.
Yeah, process to
PDPC, yes.
Mhm.
And what do you use that thingy for? There's an example of it up there. What do you use this for?
It's like decision.
It's like the tree. It's like a tree.
Decision tree.
Yeah, it's like the tree. So you're taking a complicated problem and you're breaking it into smaller problems.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're more particularly you're brainstorming on how things can go wrong, and you're making those into categories, and then you're getting down to particular failures. Okay, and it adds one extra element. That's your contingency plans. So that's what are you going to do when something goes wrong. So it's helping you to inform your response plan. So that was the PDPC. So I think that covers everything that we went over last class. Yes? No?
PERT.
So this
PERT. PERT is like the critical path method. And anyone remember what the difference between the CPM and PERT is?
Can I ask you one question?
No.
Okay, then I'm gonna ask you anyway. Like, I don't understand this. I thought originally when you give me the slices, it's kind of the way it's stated. It is like backwards.
Oh, you're saying the stapler?
But
You don't like?
everyone is like this, so that's the way it's supposed.
I have no idea. I just hit print on. That's the way the copy machine stapled them.
So that I'm telling you that they have. This makes no sense because I'm going backwards with this. Do you have these slides?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Everything's backwards.
Where is
I don't know. It's supposed to go like.
Oh, you
this.
want to staple it in the other
Oh,
corner?
you want to maybe staple this one?
Because that's how you actually
Oh.
viewing that stuff.
Okay.
So, like this.
You can sometimes, you know.
Okay, I need another green belt on this one.
I'll hole punch them next time and make it really
No,
easy.
that was just very interesting. Like, oh my goodness.
It just happened to be the way the copy machine is set up to staple.
And I thought, okay,
So the main difference between PERT and this is like you built on the probability. PERT includes.
Ah, okay. Yeah. So the difference between the critical path, going back to the actual question, not
Right.
why I staple and which corner I staple, the difference between critical path and PERT. Okay. So the difference is one assumes that the times are known,
Mhm.
and one assumes that you don't know necessarily how long something is going to go, and you can get down a range. So which is which?
One is the probability.
Yeah,
that's
but which is
PERT.
PERT,
PERT,
yes.
yes.
The one that starts with P is the one that has the probability aspect of it. So in the PERT chart, what you're doing, well, what are you doing? How does it work? What do you calculate? You're calculating the expected time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the expected time is a weighted average of what?
Optimistic
Mhm.
start and the end time. Like the best end time. Not
Okay, so you're right.
Op-
It's got an optimistic time.
Yeah.
It's got a pessimistic
Best,
time,
yes.
and a most likely time,
Most
right?
likely time.
And you're taking take
Average,
well, a weighted average, right?
weighted average.
Yeah, so you're going to take your optimistic time plus 4 times your most likely time plus your pessimistic time and divide them by 6. That's PERT. And in the critical path method, you're going to assume that you know exactly how long the task is going to take. That's the key difference there. So any questions, other questions regarding the stuff we went over last class? Cool. Seeing no questions, you guys get to now do something again. Because again, I can be the most elegant lecturer on the planet. I am not. I can have the best slides on the planet. I don't. I can't even staple them in the right corner, apparently. And you won't get to know the material. You get to know the material by actually applying it. So now your task is to create, let's just do the activity network diagram for the sake of time, for everything that you have to do to prepare for the,
next week exam.
well, for the final, for the preparing for the Greenbelt. Everyone know their task?
Mhm.
Oh, what are we doing again?
Yeah, there we go.
Exactly.
So you're creating an activity network diagram for your process of preparing for the exam. So your last box is going to be either taking the exam on June 4th or getting your results on June 9th, thereabouts. And then you're going to do everything that you need to do before that.
Starting today or
Or starting from registering for the course. or having the epiphany that you're going to take to become Greenbelt certified. You can start.
Mhm.
And I recommend you use the whiteboard.
Okay.
Oh,
You
me?
do.
It is your turn. We rotate all the way around the table for you. And I'll have to go grab those.
I'm still confused on what you want us to
We're
do.
working together.
I don't know anything about it.
I know, I
Our
haven't
friends
started
do.
preparing at all.
What
Me
what
either.
is
I
the-
just flipped through some pages and
Jump chart, I still don't know what it is.
Because I want to go through the lecture. Like, I'm just kind of,
Exactly, I wanna listen,
absorb it.
but you know, the thing is, and I don't know, and if I leave, I'm not.
Don't leave. Really? No leaving.
No.
Who needs it? Who needs it for?
We enjoying
I needed
listening,
both.
listening to you because you know.
Oh, he gave, yeah, both
So
go
he
to him,
needs
both
both.
go to him.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
I got the-
Everyone's got everything.
Yeah, we got everything.
Okay. You got other staple in the wrong corner.
No, but now, since
So
you
what
explained
we
it to
doing?
me how I supposed
Okay,
to
we
flip
did
the pages, now I'm
Affinity
fine.
network manager, like this one here.
This is very interesting, I never saw from the
Here.
corner.
So this is
Well,
our end.
if you rotate
this
it
is the
normally, it's
start.
okay.
So
We
let
will
me
do
open
two
my
paths and we say which is a critical path and okay, we can do two. Like we can compare, one person is doing this, we have to do it for one.
Yeah, just pick one of you as a representative operator, remembering what a representative operator is, and have at it.
At least one person knows what to do.
Mhm.
And gonna draw two boxes.
So critical part is
Start and
always
end,
the longest
And
part?
then we will, how many, actually, did we come down, how many tasks we have to,
You can do as many as you need.
okay?
And so exam or
And,
result.
whatever, take exam, right?
Whatever
Yeah.
is your, I think I was
Yeah, I mean, I think
result, because taking
the
exam,
result's
I
not
can,
really
I
gonna
can.
matter, right? The
it's-
whole point is to prepare for the exam,
Exam.
then the result is
But if
Dependent on.
out of your
Okay,
hands.
but
Yeah.
if you fail, then
Okay,
what I
then you
care?
start the
So-
cycle again.
Then there's a whole decision process, right?
Okay, then,
Right.
instead, when you say start, can we just say start, because we can add registration as a step. Start,
Oh, you want me to?
Take registration out, erase
Okay.
registration and put start instead. Yeah.
and let's build few boxes on
Okay.
top and bottom, yeah.
It's like this first
Yeah,
step.
yeah, register,
Just make sure you look at what steps are being done at the same time, what are being done in parallel,
okay.
because that's really what you want to
While
draw.
you're registering, you can order your book, so it could be order preparation material.
Yeah.
Parallel step,
Registration, you have to pay. Registration comes to paying, right?
yeah, we can make another here,
Under indirectly,
yeah,
and that's for
paying, getting the material, yeah, books, material.
But why this registration is up and the material down? It's
Yeah,
like,
doesn't matter.
it doesn't
oh, okay.
We will- yeah,
It's
we-
okay.
And then after books, both of them need studying,
Yeah.
preparation.
Registration is in,
We will put the days later.
okay.
Let's get all the tasks, right?
Yeah,
You get the task,
and then we put that.
and then for both of them, you can put next task is to prepare.
Okay. After
That-
registration, preparation,
Yeah.
and what of the material?
Preparation. Preparation, studying, preparation. Can do a pre-test,
Oh, you're going to do a pretest, you're going to do a midterm, you're going to do a
Midterm.
tri-term, and you're going to do a final.
okay?
Actually, we did the pretest even before the prep.
Well, the
Actually,
pretest was actually sort of done in parallel.
In
with prep,
one,
right?
we can do a pre-test, other we can do a midterm. So,
Okay. Oh, you mean? like, for-
yeah. No, that's fine, just leave it. And next step is take a pre-test,
Test.
and on the bottom one say midterm. We're trying to create two different paths and then,
Well, you can create a bunch of different paths. I think there's a bunch of different paths through this.
okay, so we can consider another one here. We don't get the material, we can create a third path, we register, We don't buy material.
The classes.
Yeah, that-
But let's have another pack too.
Okay.
Third one
Third one.
is register. Don't buy the material. A lot of people don't buy.
No, no,
Just
we're
to
just
ease
doing,
it up.
we're doing one of these where what we're trying to do here is when you're starting at the start, so then you registered, okay, that's fine. You also purchased the book, so, okay. So those were probably done more or less, not necessarily, one can say they were done in parallel. Okay,
Yeah, you can do parallel.
okay. So then what happened? So then you have prep. So when you're saying prep, so did you register for the class, you got the book, so then you came here. So those are coming together, right?
Yes.
Okay, so those will come together. Then you have the aspect of the class. So you get to come here 12 times. So we need to have like 12 of those showing up. Then at some point or another, you register online for the actual exam. So that's got to be on there. Then probably at some point or another, you can do something outside of this class. So that's got to be on there somewhere. You got to figure out how these pieces relate to each other and what are you doing?
Okay.
What depends on what?
So it doesn't have to be like.
Before the pretest,
Yeah,
maybe
just give-
change that pretest and say take.
Classes.
Yeah.
This one.
No, next one pretest. Take it out and say take
Okay.
classes, and that becomes a 12-week process, say, or 12-day process, because we have 12 classes,
Yeah.
right?
So that's prep.
Classes.
For us, prep was just
Uh,
come here and just take the exam. You remember first
midterm.
class we took the
Yeah.
initial. So I don't understand why you have prep if we didn't prep
Actually-
ourselves. I registered, I came, and
Yeah.
that was the solution.
And
It
then-
might be easier to put them on Post-it notes so you can play around with the ordering. That might make life a little easier. Just so you don't have to keep erasing and rewriting.
And also there is
Pick
the
'em.
ideal path, register and do the test. Just do nothing, it's just like straight line.
So in simple words, when you registered, what else do you do to get to?
I
for the-
registered and I got the book.
Okay, so we registered, we got the
So
book,
I
we showed
don't
up the first
understand
class,
why
right?
this is
Yeah,
actually
that's the-
separate.
Okay,
That's why I don't.
Okay.
Sure.
well, you did them at the same time. You didn't want, you couldn't, there wasn't a dependency. You could have registered for the book first, buy the book first, or register
Say
first.
somebody who didn't register for this class bought the book and started preparing.
Okay,
So,
That would be
okay,
one
how about
path.
we do it like what she just said? Somebody
Yeah, that's what I'm
bought
saying.
the book,
Yeah, okay.
prepared, and didn't come to this class.
well, that's,
That's
well,
a different part.
but that would be a completely different chart. So we're talking about the people that are in this class.
Oh,
Okay,
So
we're
you,
talking about
so everyone
after the
registered for the class and they bought the book.
but the book.
Okay, so we got.
The book, there
Yeah,
was,
that's
this
fine.
one was book. So
Okay,
then
that's
we
fine.
came in, there was the initial exam.
Okay, so then you showed up. So it came down to show up for first class, right? So those are going to come together and into first class. So going to draw a box
I mean, in the middle.
in the middle.
They both.
With the
has
arrows
to
go, with the arrows
together.
go, exactly.
Yes. So that was our.
Okay, so then you show the first class, right?
Yeah.
So it's first class. Okay, so the first class, what did we do after the first class? Well, in the first class, we took the pretest.
Then let's go.
Okay, so you might want to just go to the right to the first class and then go to pretest. Okay, so then what happened? He came back. We got snowed out.
No, Brian missed his flight.
Yeah, I got snowed out. I got snowed out.
Right.
So there's going to be a bunch of classes.
Yeah.
There's going to be
So
12.
after that, we have just wait one.
Classes, like 12, or just
Yeah,
do the next
just-
one
yeah.
and-
Yeah, this next.
Put
represent-
2 and then midterm
Yep.
and then whatever 6 more.
That works.
2 classes.
Yeah, 2 or 3, whatever.
Two works.
2 more classes, and then midterm, another box, and then do 6 more classes. Yes, okay.
Yeah, that works. Okay,
Afterwards now,
so then the last box is going to be take the final.
no,
No one take the final.
okay.
Take the final.
Mhm.
I've yet to have a person that passes the final not pass the exam.
How come that?
So I give a final exam.
Okay, you're fine. with
I've yet to have someone that passes my final exam not pass the real
Oh,
exam.
okay.
Okay,
Oh,
so
you
Don't
yet.
scare
Okay,
me like
okay.
that. This is the worst
So all
part.
people. So when do you give the final?
Second to last class. because we spend the last class going over the final.
That's June 4th, so.
But we would
The
have
la-
this
pretty much
one
the
class,
Memorial Day weekend, yeah.
But you remember we said we will.
We have a makeup, we still have to schedule our makeup class at some point, yes.
On the day of exam.
During the exam. So when is our last class?
Our last
That would
class
be a value
is
added.
the Wednesday after Memorial Day.
That's
And then-
May 20.
So we cannot do class after.
Okay, the
because
other
exam-
way
Yeah.
you can
June
do is
1st.
Yeah, I think June
Uh,
1st is
So
our
we
last
have to
class.
schedule on 1 week, we have to do.
don't
We'll
take
do
the
two, yeah.
classes,
Unless you guys want to stay
Okay.
until midnight.
like
No.
personally, just
We
online.
have to wake up.
Don't
early.
take, yeah, somebody who does not, we are doing it.
Yeah, we're
now.
just doing it for you. Okay, so at some point or another, on some other path, you
Someone is
registered.
taking class.
You registered. You registered for taking the exam, right?
Yes.
Where did that go?
Register for class.
Register for the class, but just register for the exam.
Register for the exam,
Mhm.
okay?
Was that dependent on anything? Was that dependent on you really doing
No.
anything?
It was from the beginning, we already know.
Okay, we registered for the class, we bought the book, and then we have another thing that we did in parallel with that, which was
Register for the
Registering-
exam.
For this-
registering for the exam.
okay.
Exam.
So this registration, I was gonna say, this is registration for the exam.
Okay.
This is for the- okay.
Well, no, that needs to be for the class, right? Because you could have showed up, and a couple of you did show up to the first class about having registered for the exam, but everyone had registered for the course.
Mhm.
Okay,
So just draw a box underneath book, and then you'll say register for the exam. Because some of you did it before you even started. Some of you are probably doing it right now, and
Today.
today, and you still have until the 15th. And then even after the 15th, you can still pay a $50 late fee.
the 20th.
Okay.
so I thought this one comes after all this. It's not-
No.
Well, no, there's no dependency. There's nothing that has to happen before it. You could do it
They're all
at.
independent.
Yep, those are three independent things. But you can't take class 3 without having first taken class 1.
Okay.
Like it's well, it occurred. If you decided to, if you decided to show up.
Like with her, she would come to the second class.
Yep. But you did. But you can always watch the videos.
And we can also watch them like.
You can watch them live. You can watch them from a plane. You can watch them from a train.
Because they already
It worked for
recorded
me.
it.
Well, you were able to watch it eventually, right?
The YouTube,
Okay.
the
The-
Google, no.
Well, now I'm sending out both links, so I'm completely
Oh,
covered.
by the way, your slides, when they come in XML, I cannot open on my iPhone. Is it?
What do you want?
PD
Do you want them to send as a PDF?
PDF, yeah.
Okay, I'll send them as a
Because the
PDF.
first set was PDF and that's the second.
I'll send
XML,
them as a
They don't
PDF.
open on
But these
iPhone,
are
right?
the slides.
Yeah, but no, she wants them being sent, emailed out as
Because
PDFs
I
into
was
the
other
PowerPoint.
day with my iPad and nothing was, I'm like, okay.
But we're not allowed to
I'm
use
sorry,
iPads
we are
on the
spoiled.
exam.
Yes, you are. The PowerPoints are absolutely legal. The only thing that is
But
not.
not iPad, that's what I'm
Well, the
saying.
iPad. Yeah,
That's
she
why
says
I
saying
want
so
to
she
have
was
a
reading them on the
paper
train or somewhere. That
Yeah.
she wanted them in.
I get it, I get it.
I
Okay,
not a problem.
so now let's assign some days.
So where are all this going? To the finals?
Yeah.
Well, the registering for the class that goes into class 1. So those arrows go into there.
Mhm.
Okay.
But register for exam.
Books, class? No, no.
Well, no, the register for the exam that goes into that needs to happen only before you take the real exam, right?
Yeah, so register for exam and then you're saying that you're reading.
I'm saying no, that this process. So for us to get to taking the final exam, we have to have done a bunch of different things, right? We have to have registered for it, and we have to have prepared for it.
Mhm.
So the top branch is more related to our preparation for the exam, and the registration for the exam is we have to have registered for it to get there.
Mhm.
So you should draw a line from the register for the exam to all the way to the end.
Mhm.
Okay. And you can't, oh, okay.
See, there's no dependency for that, besides there's some magical
Right.
15-week point that you.
Mhm.
And books?
Books seem like you're giving your own materials.
Yeah, but the books go into the classes, so
Yeah.
everyone had the book, and everyone was nice, and they had the book before the first class, so they'd registered and bought the book.
Mhm.
So that's going to be feeding into there.
Okay.
Cool. Now you can put some times on it.
So
Register for the
class, like we registered,
How long did it take? 10 days,
15 minutes.
10 minutes? That's
just
good.
put
You can
one
just put it
day.
on top or bottom, doesn't matter.
Just put 1 day.
1 day, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Count.
Books,
1 day book.
you ordered, when did it get to you? 2 days, 3 days later?
3 days,
3
yeah.
days Amazon.
We're not cool enough to be one of the cities where Amazon delivers same day.
One day.
It's one day. Oh my God, this was not one day, but
Yeah, okay.
One
It should have
day.
taken one day.
one day.
Longer. I
Okay.
did this
Yeah, but-
morning.
Classes, okay.
When did you, from this to
This.
this?
It's not-
When did you register?
I registered April 8th.
So it took like 2 months to find right?
Well, that's exactly the point, is
Yeah.
that task has a punch of flow on it. So that task can fall behind for weeks without it becoming part of the critical path.
So,
So,
Yeah.
2 months.
Well, you'll back into that, so that doesn't matter. So we need to figure out what our critical path is. So we have class 1, so that was,
Class
one,
was,
But then I
3 hours.
change it.
correct, but they're 1 per week, so we might want to say week.
1 week.
You might want to say
Week
7
one.
days, just to make it
Yeah.
easy.
Then I put the.
and pre-test was the same, so it's
Yep. You can-
7 days. It's,
Well, it was yeah, so,
Yeah. Okay. and then you plus 2 weeks because there are 2 classes.
Yep.
So 14 days. We can do midterm also. Actually, we can make 2 paths out of it.
That's-
but
that's
yeah,
fine, but-
14 days for this one too.
These are?
Yeah, because it's on the, say, the last.
next week.
Yeah.
Second half of next week, you'll be taking your test.
So now-
When you're nice and tired,
I'm not coming.
You can, because it will be happening
That's fine.
in those 14 days.
Yeah.
I don't wanna
let's
pass the
put
final test and fail on the exam.
Plus 6.
hasn't happened yet, you won't be the first.
So 7, 6.
I have a lot of people, everyone that
42,
passes my final
42
passes
days.
the real test.
Aha.
And
so
that's
I didn't understand
final
what
you
were
take
saying.
on the-
I thought
Yep, if you pass my
42
final,
days.
final, pass the final and
Okay.
then failed.
Okay.
So
Now-
they did or they did not?
everyone that gets
For
above a
here,
78 on the
Say
final exam
April 8th,
passes the ASQ exam.
May,
Okay, that's easy.
May, so, 30 days, and say June 4th is 31.
But this, okay.
Okay, so we have everything up there.
34, 35 days.
This one, right?
Uh-huh.
So,
Okay, so what's our critical path?
then 5.
Say, for example.
No, so what's the critical path? So what's the longest path from start to exam date June 4th?
Is the 42 days.
Okay, so but we have a choice here. So is register for the class 1, is that the critical path, or is the book? Is that the critical path? Which is the critical path?
The book.
The book. Okay. So that would be 3 plus 7, 10, 17,
40.
41, 54, etc. So a type exam question would be, how much slack is there on the register for exam branch?
It's 42 plus this minus that, right?
Oh.
What is this 42? Why is 14 and 45?
35. Just for example. What's the question?
How much slack is on that process? How much can that particular branch of the process, the register for the exam, how late can it be before
For
it becomes?
another,
42
if it's
minus
42, 40.
Mm-mm.
No?
No. So it's going to
10
be
days.
it's going to be a lot more than that. So this is 10, 17, 41, 54,
No, we-
93, 100 and whatever, 140 some odd. So this can fall behind 139 days before it becomes the critical path.
Oh, I was counting it differently because I thought the first 2 boxes were both accomplished in 7 days. Oh my God, I'm applying the Gantt chart.
So 7, 14, 21.
Yeah, so what you're going to do is your critical
Okay,
path is
yeah.
3 plus 7 plus 7 plus 14 plus 14 plus 42 plus 42.
Okay.
I don't know why we're adding an extra 42 at the end.
Why is
Why are we
42
actually-
and 42? I don't know.
No, why we're this
Final exam in the
Yeah,
class.
that's not 42.
Okay.
So if you were to add 7 plus 7 plus 14 plus 14 plus 42 plus 3, that is your critical path.
Yeah, but it's like,
So let me color this in red just to make it nice and clear. So that is your critical path.
Mhm.
So the question was, how much slack is there in the register for the exam process branch? It's the red minus the whatever that is, the 1 day.
Mhm.
Make sense? Ish?
No, because I don't know what the 42 days come from.
Okay, 42 days is each class. There are 6 classes there at the
6
end.
classes.
There's 6
Okay,
classes,
It's
so
just this box represent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, instead of putting all together.
instead of drawing 6
So
boxes.
how much was the slack?
The slack was, did anyone add that up?
It's critical part.
You have to add
Minus.
these days?
Yeah, you have to add 42
Minus-
minus 1. The 1 day that the task actually takes.
Got it?
It's not intuitive the first couple times you look at it. You need to think about it. You need to walk through it on your own.
So I'm sorry. If this tax takes 1 day, right?
Yep.
But from this to that.
Is going to be this amount of slack. So it's going to be the
so
3,
it's gonna
7,
be this minus the number.
everything in red minus that, yes.
Yeah. So let's say this takes.
Yep.
Yeah. 35. So it's gonna be this plus this. I mean, this minus that. Right?
The 35 doesn't exist. There, no. So
just example.
so it would be so no one did the math out for me to save me from having to do this. So that's the 10, 17, 41, 55 plus 40, 97. So that'd be 96.
Normally, are these questions in the exam kind of straightforward?
So
or-
basically, it would be
Yeah.
they would give you the chart like that, and they would say how much slack is there on the bottom branch, or how long is the critical path, or what is the critical path.
Do they really do these kind of ones?
They are more on the activity network diagram type
Okay.
layout.
So the slack is.
I don't know.
So I got 87.
87.
So the slack will be 86.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so the critical path here is 87, and the slack on the bottom branch is 86. So if the exam taking process, instead of taking 1 day, takes 87 days or 88 days better, more correctly, that will become the critical path.
Wait. From registering for the exam, it's 1 day.
Yes, but if that project for whatever reason doesn't get done, you procrastinate, right? You can procrastinate for 87 days without it affecting the overall product delivery. If you procrastinate for 88 days, now you've drawn out the overall project. Cool. You now move on. Okay, now we're up to a racy topic. Racy.
I forgot.
Yes, exactly. You don't need to laugh at the jokes. You just have to shoot me evil looks to make sure I know you're paying attention. So the RACI charts are a way of developing your communication plan. It's a way of identifying who is involved in your process. And any of you ever done these before?
Seen.
Yeah.
You've seen them before, right? So it's got some terms associated with it. So there's the R. Well, RACI is an acronym. So the R is the person that's responsible, the actual doer, the person who does the activity that you're identifying. There's the accountable, the person who's responsible, the person who gets yelled at if the thing is not done correctly. Then there's the person that's consulted. So there's somebody that's setting a requirement, a specification on the process. Then there's I, informed. Those are the people that are just in the loop. They're the ones that are copied on the email. Maybe they come to the monthly meetings. They're sort of people that are floating in the background. So what the RACI chart tries to do is for all of the steps in your process, tries to identify who the doer is, who's accountable for it being done, who's setting the requirements on it, the person who's being consulted, the person that's kind of informed about it. And that's what it's doing. It's a graphical representation of how this all lays out together. So it looks kind of like this. So you list out the activities. Well, where do you get those from? Well, the other tools that we're talking about. They could be from the activity network diagram. They could be from the process maps. They could be from the value stream maps. And then you have the functional role. So that could be the department. It could be engineering, marketing, sales, legal, or it could be the individual. It could be Mary, Jane, Bob, etc. And you're filling in the matrix with who's responsible, who's accountable, who's consulted, and who's informed. So here's an example. And you'll see that occasionally you'll have people that are accountable and responsible. It's hard for someone to be informed and also accountable and responsible. That's kind of a hard one. But accountable and responsible are quite frequently in the same box because the person who does it gets yelled at if it isn't done correctly. You guys love going up to the board so much, you can go back up to the board. This one's quicker. Yeah, I think we're back around the table.
Okay.
Oh.
It was a little bit, it was too quick.
It's too quick.
I
Well,
didn't get it, but.
that's why we're going to do it. That's why, because there's only so much I can say about this is a matrixy thingy, and it looks like this. I can sit up here and talk about it for 20 minutes, but there's not much I can really say.
So do I have to
Yeah.
draw the like table with the.
Well, what you should do is list out the activities. So I would suggest that you keep that to a kind of a narrow list of like 5 or 6 things that are related to your passing the exam, the June 4th exam. So figure out between yourselves what those 5 or 6 things are going to be.
So again, this registration, but I will put in the registration.
Okay, registration's a good one. Write that down.
But buying the book and the registration and then I will put this in one
That's fine.
category.
Okay.
So like registration means I got the book
That's
and
fine.
I
Cool.
pay $650 for the training. That's what I'm meaning here.
You can always pay more.
This doesn't mean
I accept
paying
tips.
for the test.
Yeah,
It's just book,
make a chart. Chart.
chart.
Well, I would just list them because then
That's
we're gonna
what you
end
want.
up,
Okay.
you don't know how many
So it's
people.
like table.
Yeah, you sort of do have the dots up there. It's
Okay,
pretty close.
registration.
Okay, so registration's our first step. Then what else do you do?
After I register,
You come to the classes, right? Attend classes?
Attend 12 classes.
okay.
What else are you going to do? You can take some practice tests.
But then there was here this test was on
Yeah,
this one
then
of
you
the
can
classes.
do
So why it has
review
to
and
be-
practice material.
It can go with a different
Yeah.
activity.
Yeah.
With the pre-exam and the midterm with a different activity.
Well, yeah, if you want to. You just want to capture those like 5 or 6 big
What was
things.
it?
I would say review material.
Okay, review material.
Okay.
And the review material means I took this pre-exam.
Whatever you mean, whatever you guys think it means.
Review material. Take practice exams.
Okay.
And was not here.
No, next one.
But we count these 3 practices.
Yeah,
Initial.
yeah, everything.
You can
Take
pause.
practice exams.
So this will mean learning outside of this class, like learning in
Yeah, reviewing material, like
Okay.
what, making notes or.
Okay.
When you
making
say
notes.
registration, did you mean register for?
Registration, I meant $650 class and $82 for the book. I didn't
Okay.
mean test.
You can
like
do
today.
register for the test.
Yes. I did this today. And
You get reimbursed from book.
I
I know, me neither.
Okay, so what do we have to do?
Yeah,
We're gonna
fine.
register for the test? Okay, so then you want to,
you have to attend the exam,
yeah, take the test.
take the test.
Okay, that's a good enough list.
So this is it.
Okay, so who's involved in this process? You? Okay, you were involved in this process,
So we need
absolutely.
the roles, right? So
Yep,
there
the
is
roles.
The
Okay, we have to fix the
Students.
roles. So
the
roles,
student, the teacher.
students,
Okay.
Teacher, the registrar, or.
No, you need to write them on
ASQ.
different columns. So you're gonna
no,
write.
I was just trying to list them.
Well,
This is
just list them horizontally.
Oh,
So you
like
can,
this?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
student,
Yep, move it up. So you're gonna need a box. Right there. So right here.
oh, that's
Student.
just like this.
Teacher, ASQ. And family.
Yeah, family, your boss, employer.
Yeah. What is okay?
Do we have more people? Both? Family?
Boss and family. That's okay. That's fine. Oh, your boss and family are two separate people, right? I'm making
Who else?
I'll make those two separate lines. No, but make them two separate.
A little bit, not really
But
aggressive
maybe.
before because just
I
a
know.
lot going on.
There is gonna be more?
No, they're just gonna do one more. Just to make one your family and make it one your employer.
Oh, and, okay, so you want.
I want that one to say family.
So you want separated?
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Perfect.
And then this, what other?
There we go. Perfect. Beautiful. Okay, so for the so for you. So for you. Okay. So who's accountable for you registering?
Me.
Okay, so that box gets an A.
So here.
An A. Yep.
and
Okay. Who's responsible? Who's actually the doer? Who actually did it? You did it, right?
Yeah.
So that gets an R. The person who's
Oh,
responsible.
R.
R is the
Sorry,
doer.
I wrote A.
R is the doer. Who's accountable? Who gets yelled at if you don't do it correctly? You.
Yeah.
And
So, if I cannot do it, then I'm not gonna. So, R.
Yep.
And then.
I just
so
don't-
then in a loop.
no, well, the teacher is in the loop, right? I got an email. I got informed.
This is this one.
Yep.
This one.
Yep. So I got informed. Well, I wasn't.
No.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine. What do you think?
You have to come, so you have to know there's gonna be 5 people. If it's
Yeah,
less, then
okay.
you're not coming.
Okay.
So they have to be informed and get the money.
Okay, that's fine.
My boss, I think he get less. I didn't even talk him.
Okay, so he doesn't necessarily get anything.
I will
Okay.
tell him when I pass.
Okay, so your family are probably informed and not
Yeah, they
expected.
know.
Well, they were probably informed, right? So they get an I. Nope. I.
Okay, informed. But it says for your information. Okay.
Yep. So you just told them I'm not going to be home on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, just like.
Yep. Okay, so the attended 10 classes. So who actually attended the classes? That would be. Yep.
You and me.
Well, that would be you're the doer. You're the one that's responsible for being here. So you're going to get an R.
Aha, R is the word. And then you.
Yep.
No, you have to come.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
They don't care.
Nope.
Boss doesn't care. And family,
You're informed. They're probably informed.
inform again.
And who gets yelled at if it doesn't go right? Well, probably I get yelled at if I'm not here. So probably put accountable under. No, I mean under the under 10 classes. I should get an A. Yeah, there you go.
You can be. Oh,
Yeah. Okay, what's next?
Review material, me. And
I'm not responsible for you doing that, so I get nothing.
I'm honestly.
I don't really care.
Something
That might be it. Take practice exams. Okay.
again, me.
Yep, that's gonna be you. You're accountable, right?
But then you have to give it to me.
I'm consultant. Yeah, I'm setting the requirements.
Okay. No one else?
You might want to tell your family I failed.
Inform. I don't think.
Okay, register for the exam. Who actually does the registration
Oh,
for the test? Yeah, no, test.
Student.
Around.
Yeah, you get it, and you're accountable for it.
If you register on 21st, too late, you cannot do it.
You can pay a fee, I think.
Up to 20th,
Okay,
I guess. I mean,
so you're the doer. You're accountable.
then
And
you want to be consulted?
I like to be informed. I'll get an I. And ASQ is consulted, right? Because you have to deal with them, set the requirements and what the dates are and things like that.
Because they have to send you the where is it?
Yep.
Informed is the family, Boss.
They're waiting for.
boss also.
If you tell. Because I
Did you
didn't
tell
know
us?
they-
No.
If you.
Then no.
You tell when you
I
pass.
told many people, but I didn't tell my boss. So I
Okay, so
take exam again.
that's you,
It's not necessary.
and you're accountable for it.
To come, and then you are accountable to bring
Oh, I'm yeah, sure.
breakfast or whatever.
Okay.
Accountable.
She is holding up to you, but
You said that.
ASQ is consulted because they're setting some of the requirements of saying where the test is, and you probably need to tell your family, and you probably will tell your boss.
When I finish.
Okay, so you left off one that's important. Get results.
Exactly. Certification. I don't want to get a result.
So who's actually the doer in getting the results? Isn't that ASQ? Actually,
They're
I
marking the
think so
exam.
because
Yeah.
they
They're
actually
accountable
give you
to
the
make-
certificate.
well, you're accountable for the result, but they're the one actually
Oh.
doing it, right? They give you the result, but you get yelled at
No,
if
we
you.
get informed about the results.
So they actually.
Who gets yelled at if you fail?
But they
The
are
teacher.
responsible to present us with the results, yes?
Yep.
So are here, then both being informed, or
Yep.
in the loop, consulted,
Okay.
okay?
We inform everybody
And
except for
then-
the boss.
Yeah, everybody is in the loop now.
Consulted, no? They
Well,
need
consultants
Teacher
are-
also, you want to know too, yes?
Consultant's a little bit different. Consultant is their controls on the front end. They're
Yeah.
sort of setting the requirements.
Yeah, so
Oh,
not
no?
the boss and the family,
No, those are probably informed.
informed.
So how about you? You want
I'm
to
probably
be
just informed.
Or you want
Yeah.
to be yelled at?
At the result stage, he's informed.
Yeah, I'm informed, and hopefully you tell me, and you don't make me to the pass list and have to go down the list to figure out which one of you pass.
So when
And
you get the-
logically, it makes sense. You don't want to have consultation as the last step. It's more in the top. Or
Mhm.
oh, there is consultation.
Yeah, well, like in that one.
Depends on the role.
Yeah, it depends on the role. It depends on what you're doing.
That was cool.
Yeah. So what this tool is
When you gonna be informed about us?
So this does not have any time boundaries to it. Races.
now Bracy is just establishing your communication plan. So it's helping you in defining a way for your team to work. So when your process is being done, who do you need to talk to? Who needs to be on the email chain? That's what the racing chart is doing.
I kind of
You know what?
doesn't see a lot of
Use?
yeah. It's like, come on.
It's some common sense. When you have a relatively complicated project, though, it becomes important. Particularly when you're dealing with there being a human resources component and a marketing component and a sales component, and making sure that you have the right people in the
Yeah,
room.
maybe this example is just so
Yeah, it's a
clear
pretty- it's
that
a-
you don't think about all these.
Correct, but think about a
moments.
change to your manufacturing process where your operators are going to be doing different things. So you probably have an EH&S, an environmental health and safety component. Are we doing something that's safe? Then you have a liability aspect of we're changing our device or our product. Well, is legal going to be happy with it? Is the sales and marketing team still going to be able to make the same claims about our product after the change? It's making sure that you have all these people brought into the loop.
Yeah, and if this improvement actually adds a value in it, so then you want to be paid, then definitely not.
Exactly,
It's in the loop.
exactly.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so now we're building on the idea of the team dynamics and who's on your team. We're now going to talk about something that I think is kind of cool, which is the Tuckman cycle. And the Tuckman cycle, named after Bruce Tuckman, basically says that for a team to get anything done, they need to go through this cycle. And what I think is so beautiful about the Tuckman cycle is that you can have a team that is working together for years on a project, and they're going to go through the Tuckman cycle. You can have a group come together for 20 minutes to do a RACI chart in a contrived class for a stupid example, and you'll go through the Tuckman cycle. And I think that's really kind of powerful, that you can use the same tool to describe the dynamics of a group working together for 5 minutes as you can on a romantic relationship. And so there's the forming phase. And to think about the forming phase, it's kind of like the honeymoon period, where everything goes well and you're just happy to be with the person.
It's like selection.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay.
So it's just when you're just getting to know each other. You really are, you're trying to define what the problem is and trying to figure out, the team's trying to feel itself out. Then there's the storming phase. This is when the team has been together for a while, and as people start to understand the problem, they start to understand it in slightly different ways, and that difference in understanding causes conflict. Then there's the norming phase. So that's when you start to work out your differences. You start to come to an understanding, but still not much work is getting done. And then you hit the performing stage. That's when you've really hit your stride, and everyone sort of understands what their roles and responsibilities are, and how that role and responsibility relates to the overall completion of the project. And then the adjourning phase, well, particularly in the romantic context, that's what keeps the divorce attorneys in business. That was actually pretty funny.
Transitioning, I have it.
It could be adjourning or transitioning.
Okay.
We haven't gotten there. We're just on the first slide yet. We didn't get that far.
Okay.
We're getting to get there. We're going to go through each slide. But what it's really kind of amazing is that you think about particularly on the activity network diagram, how you guys kind of sputtered in the beginning about what you were going to do, and then you kind of started to come to an idea, and then you sputtered a little bit more, and then you kind of hit your stride towards the end, right? Yeah, so you started off in the forming where you were just kind of writing up your insight, and you wrote the ideas up, and you had lines going places that they didn't quite agree with. They didn't want to tell you that they were wrong because, well, you're in the forming stage, right? And then the storming phase was like, no, that isn't it. Then the norming phase, you kind of started to put stuff together. Did you see yourself going through that now? Yeah, I think that's what's so kind of cool. So in the forming phase, team members are trying to get to know each other. It's like the first couple of dates. Everyone's trying to please each other. You really don't get much done because you're really having trouble staying on topic. That's what the team members are doing. So at the team leadership, from the team leadership perspective, they're providing direct and close supervision. They're trying to instruct the team on who, what, when, where, what. They are trying to focus the team because the team doesn't understand what it's doing on its own. And a key aspect of the leadership's role at this point is identifying the responsibilities for the individual as well as the responsibilities for the team as a whole. So then there's the storming phase. So this occurs when everyone starts to articulate their ideas. And every individual starts to have an understanding of what the overall goals for the team and project are. So people are starting to understand what their individual responsibilities are as well as what the team responsibilities are. And since everyone is developing a different understanding, these differences in understanding result in conflict. And again, not much work is getting done because the disagreement is causing the overall project to slow down. And the role of the supervisors at this point is to continue to provide close supervision, try to transition to a supportive role, and on a certain level to encourage everyone to fight nice. The kids fighting each other. But it's really trying to encourage the team to solve their problems on their own. That's the storming phase. So then you have the norming phase. This is when the team starts to be able to resolve their own conflicts. They can come to a mutually agreed upon plan and a strategy for how to move forward. At this point, some work starts to get done. And each one of the team members starts to trust each other and understand each individual's strengths and each individual's weaknesses. The team leadership at this point is trying to transition out of a more hands-on tactical role to be more supportive. So what they're trying to do is reduce distracting behavior and emphasize the individual responsibility and accountability. So that's what the leadership is doing in the norming phase. Then you have the performing phase. This is when the majority of the work gets done. Synergies are realized. Everyone is hitting their stride. The team is able to make competent and autonomous decisions. And at this point, team leadership is completely hands-off. They're monitoring the goals and the performance of the team, but on the day-to-day operations, on the tactical level, the leadership is not involved. But what they are doing is they're watching for indicators of a change, indicators of a backslide, where you're going to drop down to storming or norming when perhaps there wasn't a good understanding of what the problem was or the solution was. So they get the transitioning. So transitioning or adjourning is what happens at the end, when the team is disbanded, restructured, or rescoped. And then you start at the beginning.
So isn't that performing, the watching for changes is the watching for changes due to the project, not in the...
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
So projects tend to be sort of evolutionary. So you have the team comes together on a plan. They start to execute that plan. They're executing on it really well. And then their solution might not work. And then as people try to figure out why it isn't working, team members might see it differently, and you might be back into the storming phase. It's sort of the iterative nature of, it depends on how complicated your task is, but a lot of times you'll go through the tucking cycle over and over and over again. You as a team will go through it on a larger scale, but on the micro scale for solving individual problems, you'll go through it as well. On the exam, you can expect to see 4 to 5 questions on the Tuckman cycle. They love to ask them. Unfortunately, there are many circumstances that are hard to classify into which one of the buckets it belongs. They love to ask them. So if you can understand the key ideas that in the norming phase, well, that's what starts at the beginning. In the forming phase, that's when the team is first created and not much work gets done. You can remember it as the honeymoon period, the first couple of dates, you're set.
Which one is the more important one?
They're all important. The storming phase, the conflict, when people start to trust each other
You said
enough.
not much work done, honeymoon period, and you said one more thing.
I call it the first date.
Everything is written.
Team is-
Yep.
Everything is written.
Yes.
But I am thinking about selection. If you select this team as a kind of right way, if the people will click, don't you think this will work?
It depends. You can
You will
have,
never know, but
you go through the same cycle with your romantic partners and you pick them, right? You haven't picked, most people get to pick their partner. To a certain extent, get to pick their partners.
I didn't pick him for the team.
Forming phase, you don't expect work to be done much.
Correct.
So I think not much work done is storming, right?
Yeah. Well, in the storming phase, it's a little bit different because you actually slowed everything down. You slowed progress down because you're arguing so much. You're bickering about it. You're deciding you're arguing about when you empty the dishwasher, do you put it in big little with the sporks or do you go little big? Anyone ever had an argument about that?
I leave it, the dishwasher.
No one else has had an argument about does it go big fork, little fork, or little fork, big fork? Or Dimple appears to be smiling. Are you just not going to admit it?
No, I live by myself, so I have no one to
Oh,
argue with.
okay. You have no one to blame. You just dump all the forks.
Exactly.
You just dump them all into like one bin and then you fish it out. Okay.
I had a little net on my dishwasher for slots. I removed it because it was too much work.
Okay. Well, I've had many. I've had at least two arguments about does it go big, little, or little big, and then we ended up actually putting it in a sticker that had this cut out of the.
Okay. Interesting.
Oh my God.
Pretty Pokioke did.
Yeah, Pokioke. Pokioke is when you have symbols, right?
Well, Pokioke is the mistake proof.
Mistake proofing. Which is the one which you have symbols?
Symbols. Kanban is a signaling system to know that something needs to be done.
There is one which has some.
Looks like
Huh?
you are
No,
studying
like
at
I'm
home
like-
because you know.
No. I know if I knew it, I wouldn't be.
You would be here. You could be
Yeah.
standing up here and instead of sitting there. It's much more fun to be sitting there,
Yeah.
particularly after working all day. Okay, so this is the Tuckman cycle. You can expect to see 4 to 5 questions on the Tuckman cycle. Be familiar with it, and you'll be good to go. Okay, now moving along to stuff I don't like.
Oh, that's nice.
This is this is the Six Sigma team. And they like to ask questions about this, and this has actually become a more of a focus area recently in terms of ASQ's body of knowledge. As you might have noticed, there was a transition last year from the prior body of knowledge to a different one. They tweaked some things. In the back of the book, there's in the appendix, it shows you what was changed. Substantively, they didn't change it. They just changed where the emphasis areas were. So in the Six Sigma infrastructure, the team, the names is up there. So at the lowest level, at the tactical level, is the green belt. Above that is the black belt. Then there's the master black belt, the worst role in the world.
What Clark is this morning? I noticed.
So yellow belt is not even in Six Sigma.
I know, right? That's the yellow belt. Right?
Well, yellow belt is more of a more recent creation, and you'll see like yellow belts and white belts being referenced to. They weren't originally there, and they were sort of later add-ons.
Okay.
So the yellow belt is generally an initial survey overview of what's going on, just that they sat through a class and they might.
So which are the new ones, the top blocks or the bottom ones?
The top is going in terms of power structure. It's from top to bottom.
No, the
Oh,
leadership team
they're-
or deployment leader.
They're like at the same level.
Okay.
They're parallel.
I thought that was an older name.
No. They're similar role, and many times they're embodied in the same person or the same job function, but they sort of have different.
Technical.
Yep. So now let's start to jump through this.
So, the champion and process owner on the same level with the master black belt.
They're sort of parallel. They're in different places. They're in different organizational relationships. So we'll see how that relates to each other. And I make an analogy to a sports team And I think it's pretty effective if you're a sports fan. None of you are sports fans, I know, sorry, but it makes sense to if you are. So the role of the leadership team is to build and maintain the infrastructures, to provide everything. It's to maintain an active project hopper. So this is an overall arching, like, what is the leadership team doing? So they're providing the funding, key aspect of it. So that's the leadership team. That's sort of on a high level about what they're doing. So they're providing the infrastructure. They're the lead commissioner. They're creating. They're providing with the framework that this entire thing can exist. Then you have the deployment leader, which is like the team owner. So they're responsible for the actual implementation of the infrastructure. So they're responsible for the talent development. They're responsible for everything that is going to happen related to the Six Sigma process, the continuous improvement, whatever you want to call it. They aren't involved on the tactical level of the actual doing the activities, but they're picking the team. The trailblazer, they're the person that's they're the advocate. They're the advocate for Six Sigma. So they're going to the other areas and saying, look, you need to buy into continuous improvement so we can actually make our organization run better. They're the lobbyist. You can say it that way. They're the lobbyist, the K Street lobbyist that's going and knocking on doors saying, hey, you need us. Or the salesman or saleswoman that's saying, hey, buy our service.
Okay.
So then you have the champion. So the champion is responsible for the actual implementation of the project. So they're the project owner, and we'll see them reappear when we talk about our project charter at the end of this slide deck. They're the ones that are ultimately accountable for the execution of the project. So what they're doing in the organization is they're interfacing with the process owners. So they're understanding what the voice of the customer is. And they're ambassadors for Lean, Six Sigma. So they're going out and making the case for it. And they're using their experience, their successes and their experiences to be able to use that as part of their sales pitch. So this is like the general manager on the baseball team. One level below ownership, but still is not involved in the actual tactical, what is being done on the field, but putting the resources in place such that the team can be successful. So then you have the process owner. So the process owner is the person who's responsible for the particular area, the particular processes that the continuous improvement team, the Six Sigma team, is going to be working on. Kind of like the pitching coach or the quarterback's coach if you're going with the football analogy. So this is the person that's responsible for an area. They're not part of the continuous improvement team per se, but what they're doing is they're supporting the project team. They're maintaining the control plans, and the control plans come out of the last stage in DMAIC, the control phase, where they're ultimately the ones that are going to be responsible for this process once it's over. Once the continuous improvement team leaves, once all the tweaking is done, at the end of the day, the process owner is the one that needs to live with it. So this could be an area manager, it could be a line manager. It's the person who's responsible for a particular activity. And their role is to promote excellence. It's to advocate for their voice, to make sure that their process is being represented and understood, and their demands are being encapsulated as being part of the voice of the customer. So then you have the role of the master black belt, the absolute worst role in the world. You get yelled at by everyone. Part of that is because you're the bridge between the technical team and the business team. So a lot of times as a master black belt, you find yourself having to go to the business folks and ask them for money. And then you have this lovely conversation with them where the business folks say, well, how much is your project going to save us? And you have to say, I don't know. I don't know until you give me some money to collect some data. And then when I look at the data, I can tell you how much it's going to save. Well, they'll then respond and say, well, how much is it going to cost you to get the data? Okay, it's going to cost me 50 grand. Okay, so you want me to spend 50 grand and you don't know how much money it's going to save us? Yes. And very often they say, no, you can't have your 50 grand until you tell me you can save more than 50 grand. And then you have to explain to them that I don't know what the data is going to be until I look at the data. They'll say, well, I need to know how much money you're going to save before I give you the 50 grand. Like, if I knew what the data was going to look like, I wouldn't need the 50 grand to look at the data. Not a fun conversation to have. Also, as the technical leader, you get the questions from people from the black belts that they don't know the answers to. So we screwed up in this. We screwed up in our data collection, and we have this weird effect. Do we have to redo it, or can you find a way to make it work? Or we learned all these tools that assume the data is normally distributed, and we looked at it, and our data is nowhere near normally distributed. What do we do? Or the I have no idea, please help. Yeah, that's the master black belt stuff. Also, as a role as a master black belt, it's being responsible for the training. So it's conducting courses like this. Also, training the champions and the leadership team to be familiar with what's going on. That's the role of the master black belt. So you're getting yelled at by everyone. And it's a bit like a manager or a coach on a sports team where you get yelled at even though you have no control of what the player does in the field. So there's a call to get rid of the manager of the Mets because they're having a pretty bad start to the season. He's not responsible for throwing the ball, hitting the ball, but he gets yelled at. That's the master black belt. Then you have the black belts. So this is like the team captain on a sports team. So this is actually an individual who is responsible for the actual tactical getting the work done. It's a player on the field. So this is someone on the project team, on the Six Sigma team, that is actually going to be doing work. They are generally full-time job functions where the individual, their full-time job is to do continuous improvement projects. They might be working in one area for 3 weeks, another area 3 weeks later. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to apply Lean Six Sigma to improving processes. They're the agents of change. And they're trying to coach and develop the green belts. So they have a deeper sophistication and understanding of the tools, and that's where it goes into our conversation that we were having earlier about the difference between the green belts and the black belt exam. Well, the green belt level understanding is the black belt tells you to go draw an affinity diagram, you go draw an affinity diagram, and you're good to go. At the black belt, you need to be able to differentiate when to use what tool and in what circumstances. So it's a different level of understanding. So that's the black belt's the guy who needs to be able to say, or gal that needs to say, looking at the situation, this is what we do. Well, then we have the green belt, who is a part-time member of the project team. So it could be, they could be working on a project in their area, or they could be working on a project outside their area. And these are the actual players on the field. They're the people doing the actual work. So what they're trying to do is apply the tools, techniques, and methods of Six Sigma to improving their daily work. That's what we all want to do. So the key things to be able to remember are green belts, people who do the actual work. They have an understanding of the tools and techniques. Then you have the black belts who are more sophisticated. They're better on the what tool to use in what circumstances. You have the master black belts that are the bridge between the business team and the technical team. They get to handle all of the complicated problems that no one else can solve underneath them. Then you have the champion, who is the person that's ultimately accountable for the success or failure of the project team. Then you have the overall leadership team, that's sort of the people that are providing with even the opportunity for anyone to exist. They're providing the overall framework. Process owners are on the operational side of things, are the people that are responsible for the execution of a process that you're trying to improve. So if you can keep those straight, you can get another 4 questions.
So let's say, like, process owner doesn't have to be green belt.
No, generally he's not. The process owner generally is not in green belt. It might be. If you work somewhere like GE, where they require everyone to be. But no, generally the process owner is just a process owner. It could
But
be.
the same with the leadership team. They don't have to be
Correct.
green belt or black belt. They
Correct.
could be like
They're independent of the continuous improvement structure. Yes. Just like the owner of a baseball team doesn't need to be very good at baseball or even know what baseball is. He just needs to fork over the money. Cool with this concept? Cool. Moving right along. Okay, so project chart. So now we're coming to the output of the define phase in Six Sigma. Remembering define, measure, analyze, improve, control, DMAIC, the core foundational concept. The output of the define phase is your project chart. And your project charter is your authorization to work. It's a contract between the project leader and the champion. And it provides the team touchstones, which are the criteria for the work. So how do you know what it's going to do, and how do you know how well it did it? Those are all coming from your project charter. And the project charter can come in a lot of different forms, but it generally has these 8 attributes. The first is the problem statement. So it defines what the problem is that you're going to be addressing. There's the project why, which is the thing you are going to measure that's going to be able to define if you are successful in your project or not. Then there's the project goal, which is of the form of a Mad Lib. Anyone remember Mad Libs? No one? Little books where it was like noun, verb, adjective, and they tell a story by just picking nouns and verbs and adjectives. No one? You have? No. See, when I
You want to watch the
actually-
TV instead of going to school because you want
My son, younger son, he has something, it's called something different, but you know, you can make a story after if you pick the right nouns and more.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's called something else.
Okay.
That way, you know whether. if the
This is,
story doesn't go
I guess it's generational, and I'm just missing my
Yeah, I think
generation,
so.
or just me. Okay, so the project goal is what you're going to accomplish, and it has a particular form, and we'll get to that in a couple slides. So then there's the scope. So the scope identifies what you can change, what you can't change, and what you can't screw up. That's scope. The resources, so that's your team members, and how much of their time you're going to need. Then there's the timeline. The timeline relates directly to those activity network diagrams, those PERT charts, the critical path method, all that stuff we were talking about. That feeds into your timeline. So your timeline identifies the milestones for when to evaluate your project. The customer impact, so that identifies who are your customers and how what you're going to change is going to impact them. And then you have the financial case, the business case. Now, I was once speaking at a conference in Slovenia, of all places. And I was one of 3 Americans speaking at this conference. And the guy in front of me was a gentleman from Sweden. And the gentleman from Sweden was talking about the cultural differences of Six Sigma implementations around the world. And he was an engineer for Siemens, and he was responsible for a plant in Sweden, one in Germany, one in Japan, and one in the States. So he was talking about how Six Sigma was implemented culturally in Sweden. And it was all about the team working together and the team success. And that's, if the team was doing well, working together, the team thought they were successful and they were happy. Then he talked about how in Germany, his teams were all about the numbers. If they were making their numbers, great. They weren't making their numbers, bad. It was about the numbers. There was nothing else. Didn't really care if anyone liked each other. Nothing really mattered. It was about the numbers. Then he goes on to say how in Japan it's completely different, and they really kind of resent the Swedish guy wandering over there and telling them how to do anything. Then he talked about Six Sigma in the States. And he says, in the US, nothing matters besides the money. In the United States, it doesn't matter what you do, how you do it. Did the project make money? If yes, good. If no, bad.
In Japan, how was it?
In Japan, he said that it didn't even work at all because they felt that there was just a resistance to re-importing it. But in the United States, it was all about the money. And it was mostly a European audience, and they all had a kind of a good chuckle about that. And I was one of 3 people from the States that was actually talking right after him. And then the last 4 slides of my presentation were the money, was the business case for why my project made sense.
How predictable.
Yes, it was exactly like that. I was like, yes. And I was actually, as I was saying it, and saying like true to every stereotype, now being one of 3 Americans here, my last 3 slides are why the business case for my project makes sense. So the business case, because we're in the States, is important. So your problem statement. Your problem statement is your declaration of what's wrong. And it's in a very particular format. The current state of the problem is this, which is resulting in this pain. So at American Standard, each percentage point of yield in Mexico was $1 million. So our problem statements were generally of the form of, our current yield is 65%. Each percentage yield in Mexico is $1 million. Therefore, we're losing out on $35 million due to our low yield. So the problem statement is answering a couple different questions. What the problem is and why the hell anyone should care. Obviously, If you say our yield is 65%, that doesn't sound great, but who cares? The fact that it's costing us 35 million bucks, that's why you should care, right? So that's the problem statement. So then you have your project Y. So this is the measurable characteristic of the process output, also called the big Y. So it's a noun. It's something you can physically measure. So it's units, volume, yield, scrap rate. All things that you can measure. Your project Y is not money directly. You're going to decrease your overtime. That's the thing you're going to measure, which will result in a money savings, but you're really affecting the amount of overtime or the number of hours per piece or the rework rate, which is going to be translatable to money. But your project Y is not directly money. So we can see examples up there. So we can see our first example of a problem statement is homemade coffee doesn't taste as good as coffee shop coffee. So that's our problem. And here's our pain, resulting in spending a lot of money to get good tasting coffee. So we have our problem and we have our pain. And we can see our Y there is the percent of homemade pots of coffee tasting as good or better than coffee shop coffee, where coffee shop coffee tastes 5 on a 1 to 10 scale. So we can see how we're going to measure it, right? So there's our problem statement and our project Y. Now we're up to our goal statement. Now the goal statement is again of a very particular format. Improve my project Y from where it is to some future state by a date. But just think about that. A lot of people forget the date. So for me to say I'm going to be a millionaire, my current
wishful thinking. But
well,
that's
so it would be one thing to say my current net worth is $100,000. My goal is to be a millionaire.
Buy.
Without the buy, it's like, okay, I'll just wait for inflation, and probably by the time I'm 70, it's like depending on who gets elected president, well, everyone will be a millionaire. It won't be worth much. But. So it says one thing to say that with not leaving that off. It says something very different to say I'm going to be a millionaire 5 years from now, or a year from now, or tomorrow. So the date is important. So that's your project goal. Now you have your scope. So what's in scope? What's out of scope? What can't you screw up? What can't you harm? So your scope statement should clearly identify what you can change. It should clearly identify what you can't change, and it should identify what you can't mess up.
It's like SOPs.
Yep.
J&J is just like every line.
Exactly. So that's what you're identifying there. So the common pitfalls, well, not having the right resources, not having the right schedule. All reasons why this stuff fails. That relates to why your resourcing and scheduling is so important for that to be on your project charter. So identify having the right team. So making sure that if you're affecting what operators are doing, that you have human resources involved. If you're doing something that potentially impacts a regulatory environment, and making sure that legal and regulatory are involved. Having the right team definitely is a way to kill your project. So then we have your benefits. Benefits can be broken up into 3 buckets. There's the hard benefits. So that's reducing scrap rate, eliminating overtime, stuff that actually hits your P&L, profit and loss statements. Those are your hard benefits. Those are the things that the business guys, the accounting department loves. Then there's the cost avoidance. So that could be you bought a new machine that has because the old machine was wearing out and the maintenance costs were going to go up in the old machine, or you couldn't get parts for it. Or the software licenses, the software maintenance fees were becoming more than actually buying the new one. So those are the cost avoidances. Then there's the soft benefits. So that could be just increase Morale. At Medtronic, we actually had a process that consisted of we made a medical device. And one of the processes consisted of taking a piece of steel and a rod, and taking the block of steel and smacking the rod while making a fairly sophisticated medical device. It was actually called the impactor, is what it said in the SOP. It was a lump of stainless steel that smacked into the other thing. I think our operators like that. They're making this really sophisticated thingy, and they're using a lump of metal and smacking into another lump of metal. No, they didn't like that. So that was one of the soft benefits. You generally don't get credit for soft benefits. Making everyone feel better, being happy to go to work, you generally don't, the business team generally doesn't give you credit for that. Cost avoidance, if you can generally make a case for it, you're generally going to get some sort of discounted value for it. And the hard benefits are generally what's going to carry the day for your project. Okay, so how do we translate one into the other? Well, your goal statement is to reduce scrap from 4% to 1%. Well, how does that translate to money? Well, salary and benefits, hiring costs, supplies, training, etc. Everyone cool with the translation from your why and your goal statement to the business case? This is kind of the stuff you do every day. Okay, now we're going to take a 5-minute break, and you'll come back and apply it. Or we can just go straight through if you don't want the break. We actually don't have bottles of water. You're going to have to drink from the tap. I'm sorry. It's on the shopping list. It's right there. It's on the refrigerator. It's on the Kanban.
Bothering me. What was that? I think. See, I'm always wondering, there is Lean and there is Six Sigma.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say Lean Six Sigma.
Yep, because I don't think there's a difference.
Right?
Yeah, I in Brandon world, the world according to Brandon, which is relevant to one person on the planet, which is me.
What happened in our organization, the operational excellence last year started creating lean leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through this lean leader training and I did a project and I'm a certified lean leader. But this does not fall under the Six Sigma criteria or whatever. It's just lean. So.
Yeah, so if you remember back to one of the first couple of slides, there was a slide on the lean stuff, the Six Sigma stuff, and the whole thing in both lean and Six Sigma is to improve problems.
Mm-hmm.
And the methodologies are very similar in what they're trying to do.
Problems?
Well, improve processes and solve problems. Mm-hmm. I might have misspoke. But Six Sigma is trying to decrease variation. Mm-hmm. And lean is trying to reduce waste. Mm-hmm. And if you equate waste and variation, which they are, you see that they're trying to go at the same goals. And unfortunately, as your company is sort of demonstrating, is that there are individuals that become so much almost religious fanatics about being a lean guy or a Six Sigma girl, and they forget that they're more similar than they are different.
So the theory they said that when you talk about Six Sigma and they come to sell to the teams functions, they get worried. Oh, there goes a big project on board, Greenbelt, Blackbird. When they say lean, it's a small, quick win, 9 month. It's an easy sell.
Yeah, and I think that's just a marketing branding issue.
But it's right.
So all Six Sigma is trying to do is apply the scientific method to solving problems.
Right.
So it's hard to solve a problem without going through that process.
And I would say both of them have DMAIC. You define, right, measure.
Yep. Okay. Well, lean inherently doesn't have that. Unfortunately, lean applies a bigger emphasis to just looking at something and realizing it's wrong. which there's a lot of problems that you can just look at and say, wait, that doesn't work. That just doesn't make sense.
They say go to the Gamba.
Yeah, absolutely, which is important.
Yeah.
But there's sort of there are sets of problems where you can just look at it and say, wait, that's just messed up. Why are we doing it that way? Fix it. And then there's other problems that you sort of need to take a step back and say, okay, I recognize that this is broken, but I have no idea how to fix it. And it's establishing that right balance that's sometimes a challenge. And I think they really inform each other and they're sort of complementary. And I think continuous improvement in general loses out a bit from having the two camps kind of fight with each other. Cool. So now you guys are up. So you're going to do a project charter for your process. And you know what your process is now. You know it quite personally. You know it. You love it. I'll even erase the board for you.
Oh, it's psycho.
Passing the
Greenbelt exam.
It feels like I'll definitely pass after doing so many projects.
Well, that's the idea.
You'll be
So
ingrained in it.
that's the whole point.
You have to pass. You have to. One way or the other.
It's a month.
yeah, I think you have to.
Oh, you don't have to write everything. You just say problem statement. You don't have to put it in the boxes. You can do it. You can do it that way. So just remember, with your problem statements, got to be in the right format. This is actually one of those times where form matters.
What matters?
The form. The form.
Okay. Problem statement. What was the problem statement?
The current state is this.
What's wrong?
Our goal. What's the problem statement?
Problem statement.
I mean, the goal is to pass the Greenbelt
Successfully,
exam, right? So
successfully.
The problem statement is
The current situation is blah.
the current work needs require
Greenbelt. Six Sigma
No.
knowledge.
require knowledge of or current work needs technical skills to improve the process
Improve process to show efficiency.
to gain efficiency and
Too many words. Way too many words.
and bring value to the process.
Too many words.
Okay, the current work. Okay.
Okay, so what's our process? It's passing the Greenbelt exam, right?
Oh, that's
So we probably should have something related to passing the Greenbelt exam. So what's our current situation?
Being not ready to pass.
Work, I guess, yeah.
Or you haven't passed it, right?
Yeah.
Not Greenbelt certified?
Current situation.
the current or the current job requires Greenbelt certification, knowledge of Greenbelt or knowledge of Six Sigma methodology.
Fewer words. Not
Okay.
certified.
Okay.
Fewer words.
Yeah, no, so.
If you can't put it on a fortune cookie, it's not good.
Okay.
Fortune cookies. No semicolons. One sentence.
Workers are not Greenbelt certified.
Okay, what pain?
What-
The current situation is that you're not certified. Why should I care? What's the pain?
Because it's taking longer to perform activities.
Okay.
Because,
Make the case for me for why you're sitting here. Why are you sitting here? Besides the fact that you just want to hear me talk.
To get rid of the issue.
To gain knowledge to pass the exam.
How about to make more money?
Exactly. Like, why nobody saying
Nobody's
this? Like,
thinking.
I'm here to
They
make
just
more
want
money.
knowledge.
Yeah, right.
So problem statement is not making enough?
No, so
You
a
don't
very
have to
so
say pain, right?
we could just say well,
Resulting in,
yeah, you can say pain. So we can make it really simple. So the current situation is I'm not Greenbelt certified. We're not Greenbelt certified.
Yeah.
Which is resulting in a missed opportunity for $15,000 raise.
Okay.
ASQ alleges
So
that
that's problem statement.
ASQ alleges that a Greenbelt earns between $10,000 to $15,000 more than a non-Greenbelt certified person. I think they lie, but that's what the annual survey says.
I don't know who actually calculated. I don't expect that.
Yeah, no one's gonna get a nice check for passing, but there's obviously you wouldn't be doing it here. You wouldn't be wasting your Wednesday nights coming here, listening to me talk for 3 hours if there wasn't money in it. We're Americans, for the most part. Okay, so the metrics, the thing you're gonna measure. How are we gonna know that this process worked? What's gonna improve? The thing you're gonna measure.
The results, the exam passing rate. No money.
Can't be money. Metric can't be money. But okay, the
I
passing.
thought because I thought the project name is passing the exam, right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't the critical be the passing rate
Well, that you pass.
or your score?
Yeah, your score. Yeah.
yeah,
Obtain his passing score or become certified? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so up to the project goal. So the project goal has that lovely format as well. So it's to improve from somewhere to somewhere else by a date.
Improve from 58 points to 20 points more to pass.
Exactly. To improve from a 58 to above a 78 by when?
June 4th.
Exactly.
On June 4th.
Make sure you have a year there too. Years are pretty important. June 4th certainly happens every year.
$78 is enough.
Yeah, that's just 76 to 78.
You'll get there.
It's only 20%. Not bad.
Yeah,
But I still don't know how much what I did. But it was 50 something, yeah? 54.
Okay, the business case. Well, you can say that the ASQ says it's worth 15K.
According to.
ASQ's annual salary survey. Customer impact.
This
Well, who's
definitely
the
was,
customer in this case?
this is me, a new one. Customer, no, don't you think? Or our company?
Could be. It depends on the view, right? It could be both. The companies get the added value of.
But if this is.
but the money, they'll be
currency.
losing money. Customer would be my family.
So if the statement is the
Yeah,
workers
that's
are not
Because who
Greenbelt
gets the
certified.
benefit? Me, I'm the
You,
customer.
but if you win out of it financially, you get the benefit. Your family gets the benefit. I mean, the company gets knowledge out of it, right?
Mhm,
A more
Yeah.
better, knowledgeable person.
mhm.
Okay, so who are the customers? Remember we did this in our sideblock diagram.
So, I mean, we were saying it's us,
Mhm.
right? The families,
Mhm.
the work organization.
But how our family is.
Because they're
Because if
missing,
you're
you
making-
can be grumpy.
And if you're making more money, your family
So that's
benefits,
what I'm
right?
saying, me, company, and then family. So
Yeah,
it's like-
the order doesn't
okay,
matter. You just have to make sure they're all up there.
Okay. Customer impact.
That's why the sci-fi diagram is important, is that it helps you to understand who your customers are. And remembering that a customer is anyone that consumes an output that's produced by your process. Okay, the scope. So you can wash out your mouth. Have nice, fresh, minty breath. Okay, what's in scope? What are the things you can change?
Your schedule.
Your schedule, okay. You can probably change that within reason. You can change your mind. Right? That's the whole point of coming in here and learning. You're changing yourself.
Yeah, you feel good about yourself. You actually accomplished something.
But it's in your scope to change your mind by thinking about it, by studying, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
What else can you change? Okay, let's leave that there. So what can't you change? Can you change the exam date? Can you change what's on the exam? Can you change what's the passing score? Yeah, so those are all out of scope. You probably also can't change your work commitments on that week before. I'm going to pick on my managing partner for a minute. He gave me an assignment that was due the day of the bar exam, and I sent an email to him saying, Jay, he gave me an assignment that's due the day of the bar exam. It's like, oh, that's Friday. He gave me a 2-day extension because I was going to be out on Wednesday taking the exam.
And you did it.
I did survive, yeah. But by that I mean is that your work schedule, you can't change what it's going to be. It's going to be what it's going to be. There's going to be someone that's going to have a fire that's going to erupt at work the Thursday before the exam. It's going to happen. You can't change that. But what can't you screw up? What can't you harm in your scope? Well, you can't harm your family or relationships, right? You can't break up with your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend.
That's gonna help to pass the exam.
No, but it's things that you can't screw up. You can't get fired over this, right? So
I guess impact, right? Like,
well, it's sort of unrelated. So this is defining what you can change,
So
what you can't change, and what you can't screw up.
I have to tell you
That's
that
what the
I have
project
no idea
schedule?
what we're doing now.
Okay. What we're doing is we're walking through the project.
But project name?
you're defining your
No,
boundaries,
we're in
right?
the
But where is this out of
Scope.
scope in the
Scope.
scope? Aha, scope.
Scope has 3 things that go into it. Scope has what's in scope, those things that you can change. It has out of scope, which are the things you can't change. And then it has the things that you have to be conscious of not
Okay.
breaking.
This one there.
Yep. So the things that we were just going through, the things that you have to be conscious of not breaking.
Like family commitments, right? Like,
You can't lose your husband or your wife over this.
Okay.
A lot of times things that are out of scope when you're doing a more manufacturing-based process is you can't shut down production. You can't completely turn off the line. You still need to ship product. You still need to make company deliverables. Or you can't make a change that's going to be so large that the FDA is going to require a new filing. Okay, so that's the scope. The schedule. What are the big milestones? Well, that's the end, June 4th, yeah, whatever the exam day is.
the midterm and the final.
The midterm and the final, yeah, whatever those are. Midterms next week. Not that anyone should be scared, but the midterm is next week.
June 4th.
Okay, the resources and the team. So who's on your team?
All of them.
Yeah, your classmates, you, me, ASQ, Betty Boop. Betty Boop, the cartoon character that's over there. Her. Yeah. No, Betty. Okay, so I think we got that. So we have our project charter. And some companies will call this a single page product charter an A3 or an A3 template. Anyone ever gone through like A3 training?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the idea with doing yeah, it's a size paper.
Okay.
It's a little bit bigger than a standard 8.5 by 11, but not quite 8.5 by 14. So the idea here is to be able to tell in a single document. What do you got? It's a little bit bigger.
11 by 17.
A little smaller than that.
Is it not quite is it legal?
It's not quite legal. It's a little bit bigger than your standard piece of sheet of paper.
You would think 6 efficiency would be to create another size of paper.
Oh God! Actually, what's kind of funny is I
And just have another paper. Another.
well, A4 is the most frustrating paper because we get them emailed into us, and it annoys our printers. We'll say cannot print. If someone sends you a Word document and it's an A4 and you go to hit print and you go to like walk with the printer and it doesn't print, and then you go walk back and it's like, oh crap.
Is this operational excellence?
No, it's not. This is operational frustration.
Frustration.
This is
You would
operational.
wonder, simplify something. There's a standard paper.
Yeah, well,
Which is present everywhere.
yes.
Try
Well,
to fit
actually, the ISO standard is the A's, A3, A4, and the US we just won't play. Okay, so the idea with the project charter and the single page project charter is to be able to tell a quick story and be able to get all the important attributes on there and tell the story on one page. Some companies will have project charters that will be yay thick. Does anyone ever read them? No. Can you read a single page and get the story across? Yeah. So that's the whole idea, is this allows there to be a one-page explanation of what the project is, why someone should care, what investment you need, and ultimately when it's going to be delivered. And it's all up there on one sheet of paper. Any questions on that? Okay, seeing none. Any questions on the define phase? So we've gone through the first letter in DMAIC. Any questions on anything up until this point? Anyone still awake? Anyone still alive? Is there anybody out there?
We're here in the body, but the mind is
Yeah, the mind is somewhere else.
So this,
We're into M.
You're not in supplier.
so the
No.
lesson 4.
Yep,
I mean,
Is
I'm
it
gone
D?
on it.
D, yeah. So everything we've done up until this point has been D. Everything from 4 weeks ago through lesson 5, or whatever this deck is, 5, lesson 1 through 4 has been D. Lesson 5 starts M. The end of D is your project charter. That's the end. That's the output. That's what the D process produces.
I'm sorry, I missed what you were saying.
Yes, everything we've done up until this point has gone over the D, the defined part of
Oh,
domain.
okay, yeah.
We are now going to start transitioning over into the M. The output of the define phase is your project charter. That's what ends the define phase. So now we're starting to transition into our measure phase. And we're starting to add numbers to what we've developed, the nominal understanding that we developed in the define phase. So the first thing we're going to talk about are FMEAs, where FMEA stands for Failure Modes Effects Analysis. If you've worked in medical device or any FDA-regulated field, you've done way too many of these.
Failure.
Modes Effects Analysis, FMEA. Some people even call them like FMEAs. They sound really cool when they say that. This is one of the tools that I really don't like.
I knew it, you would say that.
Really don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. And we'll talk about why I don't like it in a second. So in an FMEA, what you're trying to do is rank and prioritize ways that something can go wrong. And the way you're doing that is you're looking at 3 different categories. You're looking for occurrence. So that's how frequently a particular failure is going to happen. So you're going to assign a likely failure a high number. Then you have severity. Severity represents the impact of the failure. If someone dies, that's a pretty big impact. If someone gets a paper cut, not so much of an impact.
Again, the same. Like the major is 1, and then there's no, there are some observation with 3, like
Minor.
Yeah. So you see the higher number, but he was saying like observation 1 to 3, and 1 is like kappa or something, and 3 is like whatever.
Then we have detection. So detection is how hard it is to detect the failure before it happens. So if it's really hard to detect the failure before it happens, that gets a high number. Okay, so then in an FMEA, what you do is you calculate out your risk priority number, your RPA. Really simple relationship. Take your occurrence, multiply it by your severity, multiply it by your detection. That will give you your risk priority number. A higher RPN is a higher priority than a low RPN.
Can I ask
Yep.
you a question out of passing exam? I'm dealing with something at work right now, so I want to use you. So you can use risk priority assignment to see how you want to adjust the supplier audit frequency.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
And now you have suppliers of different type, raw material, API in our case,
Yep.
and then packaging and everything. And then you decide going next step is what is the value or what is the I'm trying to severity depending on what are your risks.
Yep.
Right? Is a regulatory
Mhm.
risk or
Yep.
and then you come up with where I get lost is the detection. Like I'm dealing with it, I'm trying to construct one and I'm a little stuck.
Yeah, well, it depends on what
Yeah.
the failure looks like. So how can you?
So what are the first things that you need? Yeah, it'll be like you need to define the risks first.
Well, no, you need to define how it's possible to detect a failure if it's occurred. So if you're doing supplier type audit, so you're getting inbound inspection.
Mm-hmm.
So how hard is it for you to do that inbound inspection? Does it require 100% sampling?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it the type of defect where your supplier just produces a bad lot and every piece in that lot is going to be bad? So if it's the case where if one's bad, they're all bad, well, you get 100 units and you look at one, you know,
Mhm.
the remaining 99 are good, that's pretty easy to detect.
Mhm.
But if it's one that there's a 5% defect rate and there's no way you're going to know which 5 they are until you go plug it in and the light bulb doesn't turn on.
That's for detection.
Yeah, that would be for detection. So it's the ability, if it's hard for you to detect before you actually use the thing, if it's going to work, that's going to get a high score because you just don't know.
Like for example, if they're using it at manufacturer's certificate of conformance, then it's a low detection rate because you're not sampling it, you don't know, so you can give a higher
Yeah, well,
detection. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So I really, 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 really don't like these.
Okay.
Because
They're entirely subjective. So what I think is a 3 severity, you might think is a 4 severity, you might think is a 2 severity,
that's
and you
exactly what
and you will sit
And
in
even occurrence.
and you will sit in a
Yeah.
and you will sit in a conference room
And
and
then-
will bicker about these, and some person will argue adamantly about a 4, and one will be a 3, and you'll sit there and bicker for
And
hours.
sometimes you don't even have that opportunity to really, they just dump it, come up with this, and you don't even have the real
But you know
SMEs.
what happened today? I was thinking, too many SMEs. What happened in my company and my group? There is a investigation. 1, 2, 3. 3 is just completely small, and when you have 2,
Mhm.
then you have to go to kappa.
Mhm.
So they decided that everything is 3, everything is minor, everything is fine.
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
now today
Sounds like
we
we're-
have an audit, and then he's asking for kappa. There is no kappa since 1 year and a couple months.
Oh, see, we
So
had,
now he's going through investigation to identify that was a risk.
It's not-
This is supposed to be kappa. Why
Yeah,
didn't you
because
say
if the risk is not well planned,
that?
your
But
risk.
if you will listen what those people were saying. We had audit 3 months ago, and someone said, "Why everything is 2, not 3? Why you don't go like higher?"
higher, yeah.
And they said, "There is no problem. There's no problem." I said,
So-
"There is problem."
So we,
It's like,
I was doing investigations as a quality reviewer, and we had manufacturing push back on, so we have a process where we document an event, and then we decide, can we close it as an event, or does it need an investigation, right, like a level 2? And the director was pushing back that we were
exactly.
rejecting the
Too
batch,
many.
so there's no impact.
Too many SAPs
But-
and they
But
don't.
what we said, we pushed back, we said there's batch impact, you're rejecting it, you have to document this as an investigation.
Constantly, I heard no impact.
The
no
quality person needs to justify,
impact. Exactly.
the quality person
Because
needs to
sometimes
stand
they just
behind that
say-
record, and if they didn't categorize it properly,
Exactly. So this is quality.
My
control.
situation is
There's
being in
so many.
quality, I've been dumped this work to do. I want to do the proper risk analysis, but I've been told that the final number should come up so that when we start assigning the frequency for our suppliers, it comes out that we do not need our on-site audit for most
Yeah.
of them.
Well, that's my big frustration with that. And
Because
you're on the
they
very
want-
issue.
They want the number should look, after I multiply, everything should fall under
Low
either
risk.
not required or
Mhm.
a questionnaire. If my numbers come up showing that they need more on-site audit, they find it crap because
But
Yeah.
you know,
I'm
if-
sorry,
if
but
you
so
will-
let me tell you something, we're in the process of going through a pre-approval inspection, and one of our materials we're getting sourced from California. So they went out to California, and I guess then they're using another supplier, right, like Avery for labels. Guess what? They went to Avery too. So they hit Proteus because Avery's not on their approved supplier list, and they hit, and probably some other stuff, and they hit Avery as well for whatever they did. So I would be very careful with that because
is it yours is commercial or clinical?
right now we filed, so we're waiting for approval.
And in our case, if I even bring labeling as one of they don't want to address that. So it is,
Yeah, I mean,
and
I'm
then your
telling you
name
from-
goes on that you came up with this.
Yep.
And yeah, it is.
It's difficult, and it's really comes down to identifying very on the front end what are your methods for determining what this is and getting past it just being subjective. And my experience has been that they're always subjective, and you're generally backing into a number.
Yeah.
And that's why I
They're
don't.
starting a reverse. Actually, they want to see this.
Yeah,
So how you can fit in
Exactly.
and go back. So this is.
Yep. That's
It's reverse engineering that you always make it work because you are intelligent. So many SMEs, and then today the
I'm sorry, I
auditor is
derailed.
a-
Absolutely.
He said it.
I'm
Why it's not
going to
happening?
stay with you on this one because I can't stand
Everybody
FMEAs, but the FDA loves them and the FAA loves them. And so we live in a world where they're used, and they are useful. If people are being honest with themselves and being honest with the process, they are useful to identify and rank priorities. However, when you start to do them for more than just ranking priorities relative to each other, and you start to use them for other determinations other than saying, this is worse than that, you start to get sort of the gamesmanship that you were speaking of, and I experienced professionally. But the good news is, for this exam, we don't need to worry about the gamesmanship. For the exam, you need to know that an FMEA has 3 parts: occurrence, severity, and detection. To calculate an RPN, risk priority number, you multiply the one times the other. That's all you need to know for the exam. You also need to know is that there's different types of FMEAs. It's not in the book. Nope. Actually, I think it might be in the second edition.
But they will ask the question.
They might. They might say which would be the proper time to do a process FMEA. Well, a process FMEA is when you're looking at how the process can break. A design FMEA is when you're looking at the design of something, a product that you're going to sell or a service you're going to deliver. When you can do a system level FMEA, that's how multiple components are going together into a whole system. And then you can have a functional FMEA, which relates to how a particular function, doing a particular task, can perhaps go wrong. So you can think about a functional FMEA for a car is the type of accident you can get into. Whereas the systems would be what happens when the accelerator sticks. I'll even erase the board for you. That's a nice arm.
You just want to move on. Oh my God, again, passing the Greenblet exam.
I told you from day one, this is what we do, is that we keep looping back to applying these tools, techniques, and methods to a process that means something to you. And you're all here to pass the silly exam.
Thank you for calling them silly.
It's a silly exam. You're going to get a piece of paper because your ability to fill in these little bubbles.
Yeah.
It's silly.
And this is open book.
It's open book, it's open notes.
This is silly exam.
Which makes you even feel sillier when you don't pass it.
Yeah.
So
Very, very
FMEA
good.
is not in a number format. You don't, that is for risk, right?
Well, what you're-
FMEA is more like,
What you're going to do in your FMEA is you're going to assign a numerical scale for occurrence, severity, and detection. So you have severity be on, occurrence be on a 1 to 5 scale, severity be on a 1 to 10 scale, and detection be on a 1 to 5 scale.
That's why it's subjective.
And then you're going to say that.
Difference between 6 and 7.
What's your drawing?
oh,
What are you drawing?
I,
So all you have to do, what I recommend you write, is O, S, D, and then just what's up your ideas for ways that you could relate it to failing the
Failing? okay,
no,
Occurrence.
passing the green ball.
yeah. So
So what are the
things that are going,
failures?
yeah, the failures, things that are going to cause you to fail or not pass.
Okay.
I don't get it.
Okay, so we have a process which is passing the exam. So what could go wrong to stop you from passing the exam?
No classes.
You can't make it to the exam.
Can't make it to the exam, okay?
Okay.
No book with you during the exam.
You forget your book. You forget your materials. It's more generic.
And there are no classes to go.
Yeah, no classes. Can't go to the exam. No materials. Forget the materials.
No way to register.
Yep.
Yeah, forgot to register. Because you have no where is it.
Are we writing like no way to register? Like here.
You can just say no classes, no registration. Doesn't matter.
No materials with you during exam.
No knowledge. Yeah, no materials.
Knowledge is in the book.
No transportation.
Okay, don't get there. Yeah. What about no knowledge? You don't know it. You know nothing. You know nothing.
Oh, then June 6th, everything, no, nothing.
Well, I don't care if you know nothing on June 6th. I care if you know something on June 4th. Or it is June 4th is the exam, right?
Or October.
Or
Saturday.
I don't know why I'm writing no. I
It's
should
okay.
have just said registration.
Yeah.
Knowledge.
What
Did
to
we
say
say
now?
agree on transportation?
That's fine.
But can go to exam is the same like transportation?
No.
Maybe
No
like a
money.
Family event.
No money.
Bad
to register.
instructor.
You lost your keys.
No.
Yeah,
it's
bad
not.
instructor.
Bad instructor. Okay. Well, how many do we have? 2, 4, 6, 8. We get.
So these occurrences.
Or did not qualify to take the exam.
There you go. That works. Not qualified.
No back.
Oh, like with you, that you could like go. I was qualified.
Anything else?
No, that's good for now. Okay. So now we start to picker. Okay, occurrence. So how?
Oh,
What's the frequency
Mhm.
of this thing to occur? No classes.
1 to 5. 5 being the worst. 5 happening all the time. 1 being it never happens.
Everything one.
It's up to you.
How about 3?
Okay.
Can't go to the exam. Can't go to exam. Oh, that was the same thing as no class.
No, we were saying that can't go to the exam is that you have some sort of commitment that
Oh.
that takes you away.
Occurrence of if that happens, it'll be 5.
No, what's the likelihood that that's going to
Likelihood
occur?
of that to happen is 1.
Okay.
No registration, likelihood to happen is this deadline of a 2. 1. Okay. No material. If it's no, okay, let's say likelihood of having no material.
Of
is
forgetting your bag. Okay.
Because
No knowledge.
This is 5. If you
It's
have
a
no
5?
knowledge-
Well, how frequently are you
Well,
going
but you
to? Well,
know,
how
this is the
frequently?
worst one?
No, it's a higher number is worse. But this is how frequently are you going to arrive to the exam with no knowledge?
Of course. One, and then
Hopefully.
twice a year.
no transfer.
You know, this reminds me like Dancing with the Stars. Like how they can actually select this number 1 to 10. It's so stupid.
Ooh, bad instructor. Okay.
2.
Oh, okay.
But how come is it there's only 1?
Qualification. This can happen for a lot
I
of
don't
people if you do not, right?
Mhm.
So let's put it through. Sometimes they're surprised in the end that
Okay. So your question was what?
How come an instructor has 2 if we have only you?
Well, I could be bad. You don't know if I'm bad yet.
Double? Bad? I thought it's just.
No, meaning that this is how frequently you're gonna have a bad instructor.
Yeah.
this is severity, occurrence, and detectability. What is probability? Some people use severity, probability, and
Occurrence, probability.
Yeah, probability
Occurrence
occurrence
is
makes sense.
From 1 to 5.
Okay.
Well, what's the probability that I'm gonna be bad? Am I more likely to be bad, or am I more likely to be less
So
bad?
lower number is worse.
No, higher number is worse.
I know it's worse.
A higher number means that it's going to happen more frequently. So a 5 on no transportation means it's very likely that you're not going to have transportation to get to the exam. Whereas a 1 for can't get to the exam means that it's very unlikely that you won't be able to make it to the exam on June 4th.
I don't understand. It's okay. We move on.
Okay, we'll continue.
If you have no transportation, you will not go to the exam. And she gives
What?
Correct, because it's the probability of that happening.
Probability of
I mean,
that
you have-
happening.
Most
You
people
have
have
your
a
car,
way to go,
you have your
right?
car,
So
you
it's
have
very
Ubers.
unlikely that somebody will not have a way of going. But if you can't, so what you're thinking is,
Yes.
if you
I
don't
will
have a
give
car, the
5.
severity is 5.
Yep.
Right? How many people do you know that don't have cars or a way of getting around?
But it's about us.
Yeah, it's about you. So this is
Right, so it's very low, right?
Okay, low.
If you don't have transportation, are you gonna register far away,
Okay.
right? No, you're not gonna you're not gonna register at a place where you don't know, you're not gonna be able to get there. That's why it's 1. Because the likelihood is very low
Okay.
that you're gonna go to a place, you're gonna register with a place that you can't get to, right? Does that make sense?
okay. So now we're up to severity.
If we don't have classes, the severities, there are still ways of
Passing.
studying and passing. So I would give it 2, 3, 2, 3.
Okay.
Okay. If we can't go to the exam, that is 5.
That's 5,
severity.
yeah.
No registration, 5. No material, 2.
That could be, yeah, the same.
2. No knowledge, that is serious. 4, 5, 4. Because something you have luck too, right? If you don't have the knowledge, you can
Yes, the blind guessing monkey.
B, mark all the B's.
If you don't have material, I think it's gonna be.
If you don't have material, you make
Yeah,
it
but
how
it's
high?
not all material, right?
It's-
It's the knowledge.
You can take and pass this exam with no
Yeah.
materials.
No material. You people don't buy the book. You have online stuff. So we can increase it if you want.
That's what I'm saying. How we get it.
No transportation.
You don't.
It's a 5. That's the same as
But you
the
can take a
can't go.
ride. You can
You
plan.
can Uber and
But
do
no
it.
transport, it could
Maybe
be
there's
anything,
nothing,
right?
Instructor, it's 2 because you can still be a good student. Qualification for exam, that's, you can still get around it, but it's a biggie, right?
Mhm.
So we'll keep it 3. Okay, detectability. Okay, this is where I get stuck. So no classes.
So
Help me here.
I think that that's hard to detect because if something unexpected happens, we may not be able to come. Like if the FDA shows up, I'm not gonna be
But
here.
as it relates to
Okay.
classes, as the no classes and the ability to detect that failure before taking the exam, you're going to know that pretty easily, right? We weren't meeting every week.
Oh, I thought that meant like that one day you had to cancel.
No, we're
class.
talking about this as it relates to the overall delivery of the passing the exam. So you would know very early on that we weren't having classes.
So that means it's detectability is high.
Low. Because it's the
Detectability of passing the exam is low, but yeah, we'll have the detectability of not having the classes.
correct. So it's what this detectability is the confusing one because it gets a higher number if it's harder to detect before the failure happens.
So what's a failure? That there's no.
You
class?
failed.
Okay, so when we're doing detectability right now for all of those issues, that's us failing. The
You
failure-
failed. So the ability for you to know that there was no classes causing you to fail, that you knew it before you actually failed. Did you know there was no classes before you failed? Could you know that pretty easily?
Yeah, because it's already happened.
Yeah, it's already happened. So no classes would get a 1.
Because I think, and maybe this is where Amrita's getting stuck too, is that we're thinking that those issues, how can they be, how can the no classes be detected before?
It's
But
not
you're
the no
saying it's
classes.
after.
It's how can we detect that we will not pass the exam
Because of no classes.
because of no classes. That's, I think,
Yep, exactly.
we have to think at the final.
Mhm.
And this is the risk.
Yep.
This is the risk, right? The statement, question is passing the exam. Will we pass the exam? If this is the risk,
There's no
of
classes.
no classes, what we can easily detect the risk. So there is the detective.
So then the next one would be 1 as well. 'cause
Can't
you
go to
you can't go to the exam.
This we won't know till the last day. Or say,
Right, but if we're talking about it,
I would say the detection that whether we'll be able to make it to the exam or not, we will not know. We cannot detect before,
Today, maybe.
right?
Yeah, maybe a
So-
day or two before, yeah.
Before, I would say this detect is 5 or 4.
I think that's pretty reasonable. Yeah.
Your car will break.
Exactly.
The way, and then.
Or you
No
fall
one
sick or
will-
something. So the detection of that risk,
Is almost impossible until it happens.
yeah. No registration, you will know. If you're not able to register, so I would say it's easy to detect. No material,
With you
No
at the
knowledge.
exam.
no knowledge, we
Well,
will
it's
not know.
it's easy to detect. It's not, you can't fix it, but you know that you don't have your book.
It's detectability. Yeah, we will know ahead of time the exam we have material or no, right? No knowledge, again, no knowledge. It's half day. You think you have, you might not. So detection of how much the right knowledge you have or not. I would 3, 4. I would give it 4 because
5.
I'm always on the
Where even go?
no transportation. If you don't have a car, you don't have a car because we already said can't go to exam.
But if you got to turn your key and for whatever reason the car doesn't start,
or you
So it's
screw up your car the day before.
4 because that time instructor, I would say
well, you know I
we
sucked
don't
beforehand.
know.
But this is the lowest, so.
We'll know after the first class. Qualification to take the exam, we will also know once we are trying to register. So come on. Now, the
RPN.
RPN, right? Risk.
Priority number.
Okay. 5, 3 to 6.
Multiply or?
6. Yes, you multiply. 25.
Oh, I'm adding.
This makes no sense.
What makes no sense?
It's just numbers.
Okay,
Now,
it's multiplication.
when is the time you decide the assessment score? After you get this number, now you see, because that is, again, you now want to see where you want these things
Yep.
to be placed.
Okay, well, I'll come back to that question in 1 second.
Okay.
So the numbers are found by multiplying the O times S times
D.
D.
I'm sorry. That time was the.
Yeah, 2 times 3 is 6. 5 by 5, 25. 2 by 3, 10. So then you have 25 cannot go and only no transportation.
And I can
So,
make it fit the
Cannot
way I
go and
want.
transportation, depends on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
but the problem is that they're expecting.
They,
Yeah.
she won't put an essay together. for R&D internally, we need
Yeah,
nothing.
we're not there, but let's say.
I would say, I'm not putting my name.
Yeah, I'm not, because tomorrow when that gets,
So you're cool with where the numbers came from now?
I'm having. to
Yeah,
set
it's
up
just
a
trying to
Yeah,
figure out
it's
how
like
to
a
relate.
degree of this.
Yeah, exactly.
simple under-
Okay, now what do we do? Now what do we do?
Simple means just nothing.
Nothing, I don't wanna even think about it.
You don't want to do anything else. We did basic math, now we're done. This is it, we're done.
I don't wanna think about this.
You don't want to think about it.
This data makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense. Yes, that was what we were talking
How
about.
do you wanna grade this?
See, you'll go back to work, you'll see now this presentation at work, and you'll come back so happy.
Yes, again, it's like.
No, this will be one that you'll see and you'll be frustrated. But now what do we do? Now what we use is we use our risk priority number to rank them in relative importance. So based upon this, where should we focus our resources on? What should we focus on?
But
Yeah, can't go to the exam,
go
right?
and buy new car, so you will get.
Well, we remember can't go to exam. Well, that's because there's going to be something that we didn't foresee that's going to stop us from getting there. Either we're going to have a work problem that's going to take us out of the area, or we're going to get sick. There's going to be a family member that gets.
Just no show, basically.
There's going to be something that's going to cause you to no-show. So what can you really do to mitigate that? Well, what would we do to answer that question? Well, we would use the PDPC. Remember, that's the tool.
Plan, develop.
Yep. That's that lovely tool that we talked about in terms of our brainstorming, that then are, okay, what mitigation strategies am I going to put into effect to try to mitigate the risk of not being able to go to the exam? Okay, so that's our first priority, and there's limited things we can do about that because there's the unforeseeables that we're trying to plan for, but they're unforeseeables because that's sort of by definition. Okay, what's our next priority? No transportation.
Go and buy the car and then.
Okay, so you might want to,
Call a cab.
or alternatively, or
Rent a car.
stay in a hotel next to it the day before and just walk to the exam.
Yeah.
Or I can remember how many alarms I set for the bar exam, and I didn't end up sleeping the night before, so it was kind of completely irrelevant. But it was like, I think everyone that's taking an exam like this has been completely petrified that they're going to sleep through their alarm. And anyone had that experience? For a big exam, you've just been petrified that you're going to sleep
I
through it?
just don't sleep.
Yeah, the bar exam in Arizona, I was absolutely petrified that I was going to sleep through it. And then got there early and then paced around for an hour and a half. Okay, so that's no transport. So there's ways that you can mitigate that. You can buy a new car. You can make sure your Uber is paid up. You can make sure that
Yeah, for the 15,000 raise, you buy a new car.
you have a friend on standby that say, hey, on Saturday morning, I'm going to need a ride. Okay, then what's our next priority? Oh, no knowledge. Okay, so no knowledge. That's probably one you could do something about, right? So the way you can make sure that you have sufficient knowledge is, well, go through the practice tests. Keep taking the practice tests until you're scoring in the high 90s. You'll get another test next week. Actually, at the same time. Next week, you will be taking an exam. It'll be fun. You'll be filling in the little bubbles. It'll be joyous. Okay, so the no knowledge one. You can do some things about that. Also, we see that we kind of have a number in the 20s, a number in the 20s, one number in the teens, and then everything else is in the single digits. And generally, when you do an FMEA, you find out that you generally get a grouping like that, where you have a clustering in one area, a clustering in another, and then everything else. And it kind of follows the Pareto principle, right? That 80-20 idea. Any questions on FMEAs?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how,
Do I have to?
remember.
Do you have to use this if you work through the FDA? Yeah.
So, okay, we have our numbers. If we want to now, based on this number,
Mhm.
categorize our three high, medium, low, or what is the highest
Yep.
risk, medium risk?
Yeah. So
How would we?
what you should do to do that correctly is you have cutoffs that are set beforehand,
That's what I want to. Yeah.
and you should have those established by your SOP or by the FDA and call it a day. And then that should exist.
Is there a set way of deciding those cutoffs, or is it just?
Completely subjective.
I
And
think the
even-
medical device one actually goes through and
Yeah.
like you'll have like a shaded area is green and then yellow
No, but
and then red.
that all depends on the shaded areas, what your number is.
Yeah, so these numbers, you would look at that grid and it would fall
Yeah,
under.
that's what I'm saying, that grid. how you decide
In
which.
certain sections of the
See, if
medical
you
device
just
compliance.
look at this, and if we have to make a grid on this, if we say anything but up to 6 is our lowest risk, and anything up to, like, say 15 to 16 is a moderate, and above that is a high risk.
Yep.
So it can be subjective.
Well, it should be subjective. It should be established beforehand. But the real way to use the tool is to order them and use them as a relative ranking to each other and look for natural groupings amongst themselves. So obviously, knowing our methodology, that there really isn't a difference between 8 and 9 and 10, right? We can sit here and bicker until the cows come home of what the difference is between those. But I think we can reasonably agree that there's a difference between 4 and 25. We can dicker until, if that should be really a 4, it should be a 6. We can do that until the end of time, until we've all been completely exhausted. But we're no way we're going to get this number being a 4 up to being a 25. So that's in my mind, that's the way, the proper way to use the FMEA is to rank things relative to each other. When you start trying to rank them relative to an objective standard, you get more into the gamesmanship that we were talking about earlier, where you're trying to back into numbers. And the other thing that you'll notice about FMEAs is they're very dependent on the group of individuals that you have. So we can have these 4 people sitting in a room, we came up with these numbers. I can change out 2 of you, same list of ideas, and we'll get completely different numbers. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's one of my personal frustrations in the world according to Brandon, which is relevant to one person on the planet, which is me. One of my frustrations with the tool. But as it relates to ranking ideas, pretty useful. Because we will agree that 25 is a lot more important than something that has a 6.
Ranking ideas. I like this.
Ranking ideas. That's the key aspect of.
Because there is no grade or no number to ideas. They could all be right and
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah, it's about ranking them relative to each other. It's a relative ranking tool. Exactly. Okay, now we're going to transition to something I actually like, and I've used a lot in research and development, and even at the law firm. So the quality functional deployment. So the quality functional deployment is a tool that allows us to relate the what's into the hows. So it allows us to relate the voice of the customer to technical requirements. So it allows us to answer the question of what the customer actually wants and what functions must they actually do to accomplish what the customer wants. So why is a QFD important? Well, it's got all of those lovely mom apple pie things that everyone likes. Shorter development cycles. It allows you to do trade-offs. Allows you to lower costs, allows you to document things, and allows you to deliver things that are important to your customer. It really reinforces the idea that anything you are doing should be value added. It should be doing something that affects the fit, the form, or the function that matters to your customer. If it doesn't matter to your customer, you have to ask yourself, why are you doing it?
Because you are the customer.
Well, if you're providing a product or service for your customer, you're not the customer. But if you happen to be the customer, yeah, you get to be right almost by definition, and you get to set the requirements on what you're going to buy. So the QFD, it's also called the house of quality. What it does is it links the customer requirements to the design requirements. It also can include the target values and the competitive performance. So how are you doing relative to your competitors? These are all things that can be encompassed in that house of quality. So the key idea with the quality functional deployment, anyone know why it's called the house of quality?
It looks like a house.
It looks like a house, exactly. So on the left side of the house, we have the voice of the customer. So that is what the customer wants. Then we have the product characteristics. So these are the things about your product or your service that you can measure. Then we have a relationship matrix, the floors of the house, that relate those requirements from the customer to those functional requirements, those things that you can measure. So we have an example here for a door of a car. So the way the exam will ask you about this is it will ask you a question about what is the relationship between doesn't kick back and door seal resistance.
I'm sorry. What?
Doesn't kick back again.
Door seal resistance.
Customer need is, I'm sorry, can you just, customer's need
There's a
is
circle
easy to
inside the
close
circle.
from
Yes, so
outside.
on the quality function of deployment, we have the voice of the customer. So this is going to be all the things that we think are important for our customer.
Mhm.
And then in the top, where we have our product characteristics, these are the parameters of our product that we can actually measure. So here's an example about a door for an automobile manufacturer. So the exam will ask you a question of the form, what is the relationship between the customer requirement of doesn't kick back and the technical requirement of door seal resistance?
Okay. There's like a double circle. And so what?
Customer easy to-
Strong relationship.
Yes, there's a strong relationship. Very good.
Okay, but
Then they'll also ask you another question about what is the relationship between torque to close the door and closing force on level ground.
how to close the door to what?
To the closing force on level ground. Those technical requirements. What is the relationship between those technical requirements?
Talk to close the door. And
Closing force on level ground. So we're dealing with the technical requirements.
Well, in the column, so how is the
Yeah, where's that come out?
there is no,
So what we need to do is we need to look at the roof. Look up here. So if we see torque to close the door and closing force on level ground,
it's going up.
and if we see where those two things intersect, we are at the high negative.
Can you
Yeah,
point
weak
it out?
relationship.
Yes. So let me be really slick and draw on here. Okay, so we're asking about this guy, right?
It goes into the white.
And this guy.
And he pointed out this. Why not to this? Oh, my God. Here? This
So-
circle? Oh,
So you see how they come
Oh, the
together?
line in
empty
between.
triangle. No, you see,
It's the line in between that
are
meets
you
the high
talking about
negative.
this like a triangle between?
I'm saying that we continue this guy up, right? And this is the last.
The last row.
Yep, and the guy one right next to that is the second and
Uh-huh.
third,
In between?
and we're looking at where those two intersect. So this lines up with that. That lines up with that. That lines up with that. See it?
No.
Torque to close door in the first one.
Okay, let me try drawing again. Everybody saw it.
I think this one is
I thought this was weak relationship.
No, it's a circle with the,
I don't think so.
it's
Oh, high
it's a
negative.
correlation. This is a correlation, that's
If
not
it's
talking about
not empty,
relationship,
that's
so
why I asked
the
you.
correlation
If
is
it's
high
minus or
negative.
plus.
So this is in talk to close the door and closing
That's
force
what he was asking.
between these two.
On this one.
What are these arrows
so it's
for
very
me?
big.
Yeah, he's got to explain that, but
Okay.
It's connected.
Okay, so do you see?
This goes
Do you see how those?
Yellow, yes, you're talking about the first
The
one,
first one is the yellow, right?
and
The second one is the red.
How come red, like?
Okay, we're looking at the relationship between torque to close the door and closing force, these two.
Uh-huh.
So where do those lines intersect?
Okay, show it. Where they-
so this goes
This
up,
one is here. This one is
and
The
here.
line for torque to
and
is
then it
the
goes
one
this
at the
way,
border or the,
right?
This one
This one goes up
to
and
this
then
one.
it goes.
Let me show it to you on your paper.
So this is the.
so torque is this line you're following or?
So we're following this box. So this is this box.
Mhm.
If this one goes here,
Okay.
then
This
one
corresponds
goes
to
where?
those.
Right, okay.
The first one or
Okay.
the second one?
Okay, so,
And then the next one is this.
yep, so that
On
corresponds
this side,
This
to,
goes,
the bottom,
is that going like this?
to that.
then this one goes there,
Okay,
and then it goes here.
goes like this.
Okay, show it to me. How do you see this?
Okay, well,
Like this, right?
let me draw it in different colors. So then we have the toward closed door
Mm-hmm.
covers that row
Okay.
and also
The second one.
that one, second one. So you're trying to figure out where, is that clear, or should we do another example?
Can we explain this one?
Okay,
Can you draw mine? I want to see.
Yep. yeah, sure.
What I'm not seeing,
Okay.
you are seeing. Okay, this one,
Okay, so we're talking about,
this one goes, like for me, it goes here. This one goes
so that covers that
to
row.
the end of it, yes? And
Okay, so then we have the second guy.
second guy,
Let me grab a little
second guy.
I think it
They're
corresponds.
parallel, how they can
Like this is
interact.
on the-
Okay, so,
I think if he does another example.
so we have this
This one goes,
with that one,
yes,
and that one, because it fills into that same box,
Yeah,
we're
it's
connecting
the
the
second
lines.
row that goes across, and that's where you're intersecting.
I never guessed this.
So this would go.
Okay, let's do a different example.
Yeah, let me do
Makes
another
sense.
example.
So the next one
Okay, so-
will go here. and
So
will
let's,
go
let's
here.
try doing it the other way around. So I'm gonna, see the box I'm pointing at right there?
Right,
What does that correspond to?
okay. This one.
So this is like a negative, high negative. Yes?
So that's what the symbol corresponds to, but what parameters is that linking?
This will link
Those
to
falls on 10.
acoustic trans
Trans
windows and
Closing force on 10 slope.
Yeah.
and closing force on 10 slope.
Exactly.
What was the other one?
So what you're gonna do is you're gonna trace it down,
Closing
Okay.
force on 10 slope.
Yeah.
trace it down, and you end up
Yeah,
on, I'm sorry, on acoustic noise. And you just trace that down.
Yep.
And when you trace it down the other way, you end up on closing force.
So you something about this one.
Not this one?
Now, if I do this way, I understand the first one.
Okay.
So this one is here.
So if
But
you did-
that's scary because if the question is this other way around.
Well, no, but now you understand the relationship, the concept is you're trying to link these things together and you're looking at a
So
matrix.
you
So now-
can see.
See,
like,
now
the-
if
how
I see
it's
this
coming to a
one,
V,
this will come, yeah.
right?
So now I can, now I get this one. This goes here.
Because this is going in this
So
direction.
this
oh,
is-
sorry.
Yeah.
This
One,
is,
two,
you
three.
have
So
to look at
basically, this
to
one
go
is
in
a
the opposite
relationship
direction.
of this and
Direction.
this.
And this
Yeah.
is-
So
Now
this
it makes
impact is in
sense.
this one?
Like
Yeah.
similarly,
This
because
is this
everything has to
house,
come as a
this
house.
You have
No,
to
a
look
V.
at the V, yeah.
Oh.
This is what you're looking
Yeah.
This is one.
You have to
And
go up and,
is-
right.
From
Okay.
here is 1, 2, 3.
This is, I've never done before. This thing
It's
is,
all
No, it's actually a really useful tool though.
Okay, this one.
So Amrita just said, made a good point. You want to look at it from a V perspective, right? So this is only going in one, this is only going to go in one direction.
Yeah.
So here you want to look this direction. So that's why this matches. So when we did this middle example, we go this way, right? For that way, that part of the house. And then this way goes to this part of the house. So you always want to do like a
Triangle.
upside down
Uh-huh.
V or an A.
And
that's for
that's
the
how you
correlation.
So
What
that's why
about-
this goes.
That's
this
exactly the same,
way.
you're looking at the same
So
thing,
when
you're
you're
looking at
looking at this
the,
one, you only
so
want to
in,
go in one
in
direction.
the,
and
flo-
that's
in
why
this part,
Yeah.
you're looking at the relationship between the
because you
customer
have this,
requirements
this
Mhm.
one,
and the technical
you have
requirements.
this one going
In the top, you're looking at just
So
how the
that's
technical
the house.
requirements.
If you talk about this
Correlate.
one, this is
But
the third
so
one.
if we
So
have to
go
look at
here
this
and then
one,
this is the circle
okay,
and
they'll
the
make an
minus.
L.
And then,
They want,
but then
yeah,
you're touching
Yep.
on here. And
No,
this
another
is
one.
easy to
This
find.
is
It
another one.
doesn't matter.
Because
You
you
have-
want
if you're-
to be here.
So
That's
because
why
they
you-
will be
Yeah.
more like
So
an
if you're
L
talking-
going up.
Depends on
Yep.
which circle you're talking about. If you're talking about this one,
Yeah.
Okay.
then you go down this, you go down a different line, right? It depends on what circle, so this one is the one that Brandon did, right? So we go this, and then we have this one, and then we have this one. If we do this one, the one without the blue, we go down this way, and we have this one, work to open the door, and then we have acoustic, the same one. But it's different because this is on a different line, and you're making the house rooftop.
But the bottom ones, the relationship, they will be kind of like L-shaped. See, they're easy to, right?
Yep, all you're doing on the roof is you're just rotating it.
Yeah, because you're.
Yep, you just rotate it.
Thank you, guys.
Now to really test how well you know it.
Oh my God! Don't ask us to make this one.
Yes! This one actually is important.
Okay. It's your turn.
It's going back like this. Yeah.
No. I think
What?
it's you because
Right.
Now this is Brandon's turn.
Okay.
Okay,
deal.
goes like this and comes back
Deal.
and goes like
We can use some more static on this one.
Okay, I will draw. I will be your scribe. I will be your scribe.
I don't know how to apply this objective. Where is this mainly used? In which industry?
Every. It's done a lot in developing a new process. It's done in developing technical requirements. It's done in R&D constantly.
In pharma, have
I
you come
never
across
saw it.
I
No.
never
It's my
tried.
first
This is
time, that's
something-
why I'm like so confused.
Actually, this was the one thing that I'd never even heard of. before.
Exactly. I never
That's
saw
one of my-
this.
it's actually one of my
I never
favorite
saw this
tools.
design.
Quality. What is it called? Again, quality.
Functional
Okay,
deployment.
I don't see correlation. I was looking for correlation. When you said you don't like something, I kind of didn't like it. This one you're saying is better.
I really like
and
this
I
one.
don't
You
see
just
it.
haven't seen it yet. Okay, so where this relates to something is it's very easy to get from your customer what's important, what they think is important. So,
It was just very easy like this. Very confused.
so as it relates to you guys are customers for the Greenbelt class, for this
Yeah.
class. So what are the important things about this class? What's important about it for you?
Passing.
Okay, ultimately passing the exam. Okay, what else is important about the class itself?
This is based for me to go for the next.
No, but how do you know that you're getting a good class or not?
If I'm gonna be interested, I'm
If I
taking
understand
another
what it
class,
means.
black belt or whatever.
Knowledge is being.
What about the class? Like that I'm prepared? Like that the lessons are interesting? Like what makes you say you have a good class or a bad class?
If I'm engaged, if
Okay.
I'm kind of
Student
interested.
engagement. Okay.
Yeah. This is for me the first class. I would like to see if I would be interested in some next one.
Okay, so passing the exam is important in student engagement while it's going through the class. Okay. What else? What else is important? How do you know if you're having this is a good class or not?
This is actually challenging. So you're looking for something that is more difficult.
No, I'm saying
I'm having a
good time.
good discussion group,
Yeah,
having a good group of people.
But challenging in a good way.
Now we are not talking about passing exam, it's
No,
more
I'm talking about
about
that, just the class itself.
classes, yeah. Environment, classroom environment,
Okay.
It's just something completely new.
access to come.
Materials. Okay, materials. Oh,
Interesting.
What?
Some teacher.
Teacher, yeah. Teacher. Okay, I'm up there. Okay, so we have things that are important to you as someone taking this class. So we have that you're ultimately you want to pass the exam, you want to be engaged as we're going through these 36 hours together. You want to have some sort of a rapport with your classmates. On the materials, you want to have good materials, like the slides need to be pretty good. I guess the videos online, that sort of thing should be helpful. You need to have a decent teacher, I should be funny. So then we have our technical requirements. So how are we going to measure that? How are we going to measure it? Well, you're going to get your ASQ cert, right? Then we also have what else? What else do we have? We have
What do
the.
you draw?
I just wrote the word cert.
Oh, okay, cool.
Then we have, well, what else are we going to measure? We're going to measure your performance in the midterm, right? And then your performance on the final. Okay. What else can we measure about what you're doing in class? So your attendance, right? Attendance is probably important.
What was in the second box?
Midterm. And one more.
And what was the last one? I'm sorry.
Attendance. And one more that's going to,
The exam.
well, you have your certification, you have your final.
Oh,
So
okay.
things that are going to be, yeah, as relates to the class. So
The pre-exam.
number of students sleeping.
Pretty cool.
The number of naps.
Okay, number of breaks.
Well, naps, no, that you fell asleep though. So the class was so bad you just fell asleep. Okay, so what's the correlation between passing the exam and certification?
Strong.
Strong, exactly, right? No, we want to just make it positive. So maybe we'll make it positive. Okay, what's the relationship between passing the exam and the midterm? We'll make strong positive and just with a circle, like just positive.
It's medium.
Yeah, so it's probably between passing the exam and the final. I'm going to tell you it's strong positive
Okay.
because I've yet to have someone pass the final and not pass the real thing. So those are pretty strongly
Out
correlated.
of how many?
400. Attendance in passing the exam.
Strong.
Positive.
Okay, I'm going to give you somewhat of number of naps.
Negative.
Strong negative, right? If you sleep through the class, you're probably not going to do too well. Okay, engagement. If you're well engaged in the class,
Positive.
it's probably going to positive certification. It's not going to be a 1-for-1. Performance in the midterm.
Engagement is negative. You don't want to be engaged.
No, I'm not sure there's a, what do you think? Is there a relationship between how engaged you are in the class and your performance in the midterm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Positive.
Satisfaction.
The final, yeah. Probably your level of engagement and your attendance is going to be strongly correlated, right? If you're really engaged, you're going to show up. If you're not so engaged, you might be like, oh, it's a nice day out. So those are probably going to be. And engagement. So if you're very engaged, are you going to take a lot of naps?
No.
Strong negative.
Strong negative.
Okay.
Classmates. Is there a correlation between liking your classmates and getting certified?
No.
No, probably not. Is there a relationship between your midterm grade? Probably not. The final? Attendance.
But there is some correlation because, like, I think sometimes when you guys ask me a question and I don't get it, that kind of trick me and I go somewhere. So there is some value with that.
Yes, attendance and classmates, yes.
Yeah.
Attendance and classmates, absolutely. I'll give you that there's a positive correlation with that. And number of naps in the classmates? Probably a positive correlation there. If you like classmates, you're going to be less likely to nap on them. Okay. So materials. What's the relationship between certification and materials? Pretty strong, yeah. Between materials and the midterm? Probably strong. Strong.
Sometimes no.
Material and actually.
If anything, it's negative, right? If the materials are really good, you think that there's no reason for me to, there's no reason to show up.
Material is good, then number of naps less.
Well, actually,
But you can
boring,
yeah.
then you fall asleep.
yeah, okay. I think that's actually a positive correlation between the quality of the materials and the number of naps. So the better the materials, the less you have to listen to me. So you can just go.
Okay, now the fun one.
The teacher. So, what do you think? Is there a correlation between me and the certification?
Yeah, you said it.
Sure.
Yeah, strong positive. Between me and the midterm,
Yes.
probably a correlation there.
Final.
Final, probably there. Attendance.
So why is it,
You will
why
not be
is it on
happy
the
if no one
cert,
will show
there's,
up. So I
it's
think
strong positive and the other ones are just positive?
Well, because these are 1-for-1. If you pass the exam. you get
Because he said
certification.
that
No, with the
by
teacher.
midterm and
Oh,
final.
well, I don't know.
Because by midterm, he hasn't taught us completely.
Yeah, that was sort of it.
Certification.
That was
We have already taken the final and we have the surety.
yeah. So
If we pass the final,
if you want to make that one strong, okay.
yeah.
Okay, attendance.
I think it's
Good
important
teacher,
for you.
good attendance.
Okay.
Yeah.
And naps.
You would be
Good
happy
teacher,
to
less
have
naps.
custody, and all.
I told you that I nearly bored a guy to death the first time I ever taught. So
Uh-huh.
fortunately, that's never reoccurred. Okay, so that handles that part of it. Now we get the fun part. Okay, what is the relationship between becoming certified and your midterm? I'm actually going to let you know a little secret. It's actually pretty awesome. Why am I using a different color? Because I want to.
Use the blue.
Yeah, I'm going to use the blue. Okay, so we're going to say this relationship between certification and the midterm is positive.
Positive. Certification and final, positive.
Strong positive, right?
Yeah. Certification and attendance is positive.
Yeah, positive to almost nil.
Certification.
And number of naps.
Strong positive.
Well, are you going to become? Are you going to, hang on? Are you going to become certified if you're taking a lot of naps? in
No,
class?
negative.
It's probably going to be strong negative, right?
Strong
If
negative.
you slept through the entire class, you're probably not going to become certified.
For midterm and final.
Okay, let's go with the. We already did the midterm and certification. So the midterm and the final.
Positive.
Those are positive. The midterm and attendance.
Positive.
Positive. Midterm and the number of naps.
Negative.
Negative. Okay,
Final.
the final and attendance.
Positive.
Positive.
Final and
Number of naps.
naps.
Negative.
Negative.
And attendance and the number of naps.
They're strong negative. No. What am I saying? You're attending, so less naps.
That's kind of an interesting one, right?
More you're attending.
If you attend less, you'll probably take more naps.
No, but if you're attending because you're not taking naps, I don't know.
What's
No,
the
but he's saying
reason
naps
behind
in the
taking
class.
naps?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
taking
so
naps in the
yeah.
class.
So there's more likelihood if you're
That if
here
you're
that you
attending, so
could,
it is-
right?
Yeah,
So you're going to say it's positive?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, now that we went through an example, now that you start to see how powerful it becomes? Because we started with just like passing the exam. Like what can we do to measure and predict how we're going to pass the exam? Well, your score on the midterm is going to help you to determine if you're going to pass the exam. Your score on the final is going to be a really good determination of if you're going to pass the exam.
So how is this tool utilized after this step?
How's it used after this step? Okay, well, part of it is in developing which are the critical parameters that you're going to measure. So you're looking at a process, there's a large number of possible measurement points. You want to measure the points that are important to your customer, that directly link to your customer. So that's one of the ways you use it. That was my phone, actually. And so that's the way that you would use it. And the other is in making sure you fully understand what your customer wants. And making sure that you have an understanding of what your customer wants and how you can translate that to actually measuring and evaluating your process. Because that becomes really hard. Because your customer can say, I want a good tasting cup of coffee. Or I want my coffee fast.
So you focus on the strong positive.
You focus on the strong positives, the things or the strong negatives.
Yeah.
The things that are going to have a big
to improve, you need strong negative.
or it depends.
And to
Sometimes your goal level will be to reduce the number, and if you want to reduce the number, then you want a strong negative, right? And that's why if you on the example you have the arrows that are showing you how you're measuring it.
So that's what I wanted to ask you.
Yep.
What does the arrow going
Yeah,
up and
the arrow is indicating the direction of the measurement. Is that
okay, where the torque and closing that you asked us.
yeah, it's decreasing the torque and closing force. It's just giving you the directionality of the numbers.
Oh. So it's if you read that, it's a decreasing the torque of to close the door. Increase is
Yes, is strongly correlated to the ease to open from the outside. So if you need more torque, you need more force. There's obviously more resistance. So if there's less torque needed, it's easier to open the door.
And the other one, the next one is
the closing force on the level ground. So increasing the amount of force needed to close the door, well, it's going to stay open because there's just more, you need more force.
okay.
That's just giving you a sense of the directionality of how your measurements are trending. But the key aspect of the QFD you should be familiar with is how to read one. So if you're given one of these on the exam, they will ask you the question of what's the relationship between a technical requirement and a customer requirement, or between technical requirements themselves. And if you can do that, and you all were just able to do that, you will be able to get that 1 or 2 questions on the exam right.
What are these other A, car, B?
Ah, okay. Good that you bring this up. So we're extending it out a little bit more. So then we have our objective values. So that's how we're going to measure these things. So the midterm would have the midterm score. So our target value for the midterm is going to be 76. And then you have how our car compares to our competitors' cars. So sort of a competitive analysis. And then you can extend that to the technical importance. So how important is this to our internal process? We know there's a strong link between our technical requirement and our customer requirement, but how important is it really to our process? Making more sense now? You actually comfortable with the QFD? Actually, I think there was a QFD question on the midterm. Okay, so any questions for me? No questions. I've been completely clear.
What's the question on midterm?
I don't.
I don't want to know the question. I want to know the answers.
No, I don't remember the question, and there's even a lesser chance I remember the answer. I would say
That's why
B.
we have no questions.
Cool. So we will start up next class. We will finish lesson 5. It's 9:15 on the minute. See, it went that fast. You were having that much fun.
Yeah, no napping.
Don't happen.
So if everyone make sure that you get the email from the second email from ASQ saying that you're confirmed to sit for the exam. If you haven't gotten it, you might want to make a phone call. You're the only one that's in that.
Yeah, I didn't get it. After how many long? How many days?
30 minutes.
No,
Yeah, it's
as
not
soon
that
as you
long.
registered, you got it?
Yeah.
Yes, but I didn't open. I don't know what it says. But
It
I
says
got
you're-
the confirmation. It happened the same way like I got it. But now I have to wait like day or two,
So
and they're
the
gonna
one-
have some other email
First
with
email
the
was
location.
at 6:03.
Well, the email the location won't be for a couple weeks.
Yeah, there was
Okay,
something about.
probably
And the other one
something, yeah.
was at
There's
11.
another email.
Okay, I'll
Yeah,
have
the email that you'll be getting, you'll get an email about 2 weeks before the exam date. That'll be from Jill. That will say the exact logistics about where the exam is, where to park, that sort of thing. But that won't be until 2 weeks before the exam.
Okay.
The exams are all in one center?
If you're gonna
With
take it
only
at
one
the Princeton
sentence?
section,
So we always go in the same location?
Yeah, it's in one of 2 locations. This one is going to be at,
no, because I don't remember when I booked the proctor, so I don't know which one this is.
yeah, I think it's Raritan Valley. I'm 90% certain it's Raritan Valley because we're at Rowan in December.
So why the
No,
other
but
one
she
was
just had one
either
in March.
Lawrenceville? I don't understand.
She just had one in March.
Oh, I forgot about March.